Everyone is in now.
Great, thank you. Okay, good evening. I'm calling this public hearing to order in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, MGLC 131, Section 40, and the Boston Wetlands Ordinance, Boston City Code Ordinances, Chapter 7-1.4. The Boston Conservation Commission will hold this virtual public hearing this evening on May 6, 2026, to review the following projects to determine what conditions, if any, the commission will impose in order to protect the interests of the public and private water supply, groundwater, prevention of pollution, flood control, prevention of storm damage, protection of fisheries and land containing shellfish, and protection of wildlife habitat. This evening's hearings will be followed by our regular meeting. And in accordance with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, we are conducting this meeting online to ensure public access to the deliberations of the Conservation Commission. The public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. Additionally, the meeting is being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, please turn off your video. Members of the public may have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. For the record, I am Michael Parker, Chair of the Commission. Could staff please identify themselves?
Elena Itamari with the Environment Department.
Dee Dee Hernandez with the Environment Department.
Mason Hagan with the Environment Department.
Great, thank you. Now I'll call the roll of commissioners present for this evening's hearing. Commissioner Linay.
Amy Linay.
Commissioner S.S. Smargiassi.
Steve S.T. Smargiassi.
Commissioner Herbst.
Ian Herbst.
Great, thank you. Okay, first item on the agenda, notice of intent for DEP file number 006-2123 and Boston file number 2026-023 from 4 Point Associates, Inc. on behalf of Ocean Havens LLC for the proposed rehabilitation of a degraded section of concrete deck at the Charlestown Marina, 1 Pier 8, 13th Street in Charlestown. Resource area is land subject to coastal storm flowage. This has been continued from the April 22nd, 2026 hearing. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Hi, Chair Parker. It's Erica Frazier from 4 Point Associates, and with me tonight is Ryan Cantwell from Ocean Havens.
Okay, great. So we've heard this, and I think we were down, and Elena, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we were down to the protection of debris falling into the harbor, and I believe that we asked for some sort of meshing to prevent that. And you have another concept in mind, and I think that's the only outstanding issue. Am I right about that, Elena?
Correct. And I believe that the DEP file number maybe hadn't been issued last time. Apologies, I wasn't here for the last hearing, but we do
It
have
wasn't.
all the file
Yep.
numbers. Great. Yeah.
Yep, that was the issue. Yep. Okay. So
Yes, Chair
Erica,
Parker.
there you go. Yep.
The alternative solution was to place some boards underneath the pier, attached to the pier, to collect any of the debris. And then once the area was chipped away, it would be vacuumed and all the debris would be removed. And then once the debris was removed, and the new concrete would be put in place, the protection would be removed.
Okay. Okay. So I don't remember anyone employing that in the past, and I obviously could be very wrong about that, but I think that. So is anybody else hearing me like reverb there, echoing?
Erica, it might be an echo on your end. I'm not sure. It was lighting
Oh,
up
okay.
a little bit. Sorry, that doesn't usually happen, but it seems to be. Yeah.
Okay. Are we now? Okay. Okay. So I don't remember any proponents employing that method before. So what is the vacuum like? It's like a shop vac or something like that, or?
So to go into a little more detail, what we would do is we would affix 4x8 sheets of 3/4 inch plywood underneath the stringers to encase the entire work area. So all debris would land, a matter of inches down onto plywood that's affixed with lag bolts. And then after the demolition is complete, the entire deck area We would hand remove any large items, and then we would remove any smaller particles with a shop vac.
Okay. And so what's the thought process there? Is there might be some large pieces of debris that mesh can't handle, or is this, I'm just curious why you,
Just make sure we collect everything. I'd like not to see, the smaller debris get through. This way, we'll be able to collect everything that is not already supported by the galvanized sheets. If there are any areas where the galvanized sheeting is rotted away, like we have found, we'll be able to collect anything that comes out of the work area.
okay. Okay. And for the record, I know who you are, but could you just state your name so we have
And Brian Cantwell from Ocean Havens. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Okay. Want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Elena, did you have anything else on this?
I didn't have anything else.
Okay, thanks. And I'm going to go to Commissioner Herbst because she also raised the same issue I did about the containment of the debris, and I want to get her reaction.
Sure. I had similarly was wondering how you would get the material out without it just spilling out the sides of the plywood. But and you'll have room to get the shop vac in if you're setting it just a couple inches below where you're working.
Once the work area is clear of all the debris that's coming out, they'll be able to reach. It'll be a matter of 10 to 12 inches down, basically the depth of a stringer, to access anything that they haven't already.
Okay. I don't have further questions then. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Linay?
I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Estes-Marchiazzi?
None for me either. Thank you.
Okay. Elena, do we have any hands raised? I don't see any. Or did you get any emails?
I see no hands. We have no emails either.
Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing and issue the order of conditions.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Estes-Marchiazzi?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 4-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Parker.
Okay, next item on the agenda, notice of intent for DEP file number 0062019 and Boston file number 2024-039 from Engineering Alliance, Inc. on behalf of the Commercial Wharf East Condominium Association for the proposed installation of a timber boardwalk and other structural improvements to extend the harbor walk along the south side of Commercial Wharf East in the north end. Resource areas, land subject to coastal storm flowage, 25-foot waterfront area, and 100-foot buffer to coastal bank. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
I am Jamie Medea and Rick Salvo from the Engineering Alliance.
Okay, great. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, commissioners, and good evening. Thank you for your service. I'm going to turn this over fairly quickly to the technical specialist, Rick Salvo. But I'm going to give you a very, very brief introduction because there are so many people on this call that are perhaps unfamiliar with what this proceeding is and what it is not and why we're here. This is a Conservation Commission resource area and climate adaptation review of a project. It is not MEPA. It is not Chapter 91. It is not a project redesign. It is a proposed project authorized by legislation that is quite specific. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. For the background of the Conservation Commission, this site was first redeveloped as condominiums in the 1970s. And we're here today because about 25 plus years ago, in 2003, the owner of the condominium units at that point, a developer, Douglas Freeman, sought to renovate some of the first and second floor units and received what's known as a minor modification letter from the Department of Environmental Protection under Chapter 91. Why do you care? The only reason you care is that succeeded at the moment and was supposed to have a harbor walk built, so you wouldn't even be here, except for the fact that he didn't do it. He didn't build that harbor walk. So now, over 25 years later, there have been disputes with the Commonwealth and abutters for 10 years now, and the legislature was tired of it. So they put through, they were tired of the judicial time being wasted on court cases to resolve property rights. They were tired of disputes about whether there should or should not be a Chapter 91 license. So while you had in your application for a number of years before that, you had a proposal for a harbor walk from the current condominium association on their own property. It was being held up by the Chapter 91 licensing question. So the legislature took action. The act was December 22nd of 2000, I think it's 22nd of December of 2022, and it was extremely specific. I'm sorry to annoy you with that, but the legislation specifically says, yes, these existing structures, buildings, uses, not the harbor walk, shall be authorized by this act, and in exchange, the harbor walk is to be built on the south side, and it specifically says a 10-foot harbor walk along the south side of Commercial Wharf on its property, et cetera, et cetera. So I give you that background just to make very clear the legislation had a plan attached to it. It happened to be your plan. It was the one that was in your files, and it referenced exactly that plan. That is why we are here today. The entire site is located within land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's all buffer zone. It is not any in-water work. There is no cantilevering. There is no other property involved because the legislation was quite specific. It has to be on their own property. That is all I'm going to say as a lawyer and turn it over to the necessary and much more educated about all the exact climate adaptation levels, which is out to 2000, excuse me, it's out to 2070. Yes, thank you very much. Rick Salvo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Rick Salvo with Engineering Alliance. Eleanor, can we go to the graphics? There you go. So what you see before you is just the aerial view of Commercial Wharf itself as it sits today. The proposed harbor walk is on the south side, which is sort of the bottom side of the page here. And it really extends where you see that area that projects out from the property line, this little projection that sticks out. The harbor walk will be constructed in that area. It's about 260 linear feet in total. Access to the harbor walk would be via the existing sidewalk for Commercial Wharf, which connects to Atlantic Avenue, and then it would connect to Yacht Haven on sort of the plan right side of the figure here. If we can go to the next slide. This is just the legislative act that Jamie referred to. This was included within your notice of intent application. I think I just wanted to show that it actually physically existed. If we can go to the next page, it will show a figure of, this is the plan that was submitted with the legislation that was attached to the legislation. I was not the author of this plan, but this was negotiated as part of the legislation. And you will see when the plan gets before you, or the plans that you've already reviewed as part of this notice of intent, that we did in fact match this proposed design.
And
so if we
excuse
flip
me
to
for interrupting, Rick. I just want to clarify for all the commissioners. It can look, if you're not familiar with the site, it can look like that's a barrier that's saying don't come in here. That's not it. That granite block with the little flowers below, that connects to the guard booth, which is then open on the other side. So it's not like it's blocking off everything you're looking at in order to get into and out of the area. Thank you.
All right, so if we flip to the next slide. So this is just the existing conditions survey. As was noted, the resource areas present are land subject to coastal storm flowage, which, and I'm going to talk in Boston City base, just so we don't get confused here, versus NAVD 88. So Boston City base, it's a zone AE 16.45 and a VE 19.45 on the water side. The area where the Harbor Walk is going to be constructed ranges from elevation 1345 to 13.93, just to give you a sense. If we're talking about the 2018 flood or king tide that caused the flooding, that basically came just over the top of the sidewalk on the Commercial Wharf building itself, which is about elevation 15.6. So just as a frame of reference here. If we can go to the next slide. So this is the area where the Harbor Walk is going to be constructed. We're looking straight down the Harbor Walk. Your back is at Joe's Bar and Grill, looking out towards Yacht Haven. So this brick area that has these 36-inch concrete caissons, the caissons will all be removed. The brick will be removed. We'll replace that brick area with a crushed stone and adjust it to elevation 13.78. There will be a concrete wall built on the left side here, which will sort of act as a vehicular buffer to separate the vehicular traffic from the pedestrians that are on the Harbor Walk. And we'll get to this in a minute, but this was our opportunity to add some coastal resiliency into the project, and that's what that wall will act as. If we flip to the next slide. And if, Ella, can you zoom in on that detail in the upper left-hand corner?
I don't think we can.
Oh, don't think you.
Yeah.
So the retaining wall on the right-hand side, that's on the parking lot side. That wall will be constructed. It'll be a cement concrete poured in place retaining wall. It will have a footing on it that will be designed so this wall can be adaptable and it can be raised in the future. As part of this project, it will be built to elevation 16.45. The Harbor Walk is below that. Will sit on top of the crushed stone on 2x8s framing with a wooden Harbor Walk over that to the width of 10 feet with a 42-inch high handrail on the water side. So folks will be able to get from the sidewalk grade that's currently at Joe's Bar and Grill on our property, but adjacent to Joe's Bar and Grill, ramp up at about a 5% slope, so we wouldn't need any special ADA accommodations, and no meet ADA. Ramp up to elevation 14.57, extend for elevation 14.57, and then extend back down to meet the grade on the other side, about 260 feet away. All of this construction happens on our property. Like I said, the retaining wall was twofold. Number one, as you can see, we now have a reconfiguring of the parking, and we have parallel parking spaces against that wall. So it'll be a separation from the vehicular traffic to the folks on the Harbor Walk, and also be a beginning of a coastal resiliency program in this area. So as I said, this wall will be built to elevation 16.45 as part of this project. It will be adaptable to be able to be raised as high as 21.5, which are the elevations that have been talked about during the various projects and discussions that have happened around the north end in terms of discussing coastal resiliencies. There is a low point about 3/4 of the way down the Harbor Walk. That's the most vulnerable space, pretty close to where that AA cross section is shown. That's the lowest point. So the wall will certainly start to provide some immediate relief for the folks at Commercial Wharf, because that low point will sort of be blocked by the retaining wall, which would serve to keep floodwaters out until floodwaters raise to the point at each end where we don't have control over the land, where it would still be allowed to flood around that. But again, this is a start for the Coastal Resiliency Program. in this area. This wall will hopefully be able to be extended in the future, along with other efforts throughout the whole area, because obviously a retaining wall utilized to mitigate floodwaters needs to be a holistic approach, because wherever there isn't a retaining wall, floodwaters can still get in. But it'll be a start, and it will provide some immediate relief to Commercial Wharf. If I just want to be clear, it's not going to be a complete solution until everybody in the area sort of gets together and decides what flood barriers work the best for them to be able to solve that problem. So, so again, the facts and figures, where elevation 14.57, according to the RMAT report that was prepared as part of the MEPA filing, the 2050 mean high water is projected to be 13.85. So on a day-to-day basis, this will be about a foot higher than the 2050 projected mean high water. And then beyond those dates, like I said, we tried to provide something that was adaptable and can be adjusted in the future as things progress, and there needs to be more solutions to combat sea level rise, coastal flooding, and so on and so forth. All the stockpiling material will happen within the parking lot. They'll cordon off some parking spaces on the landward side of the parking lot to store supplies and carry them over as needed. There'll be a silt boom place to capture any debris that could fall into the harbor as part of this project. And that's essentially the proposal. So I think at this point, Jamie, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I think I'd turn it back over to the commission for any questions or comments that you
Only
might
to
have.
add, we spent $2,600 notifying everybody as required. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you for your editorial comment there. So, first question, technical question for Rick is the erosion controls. What are you proposing here?
We're proposing a silt boom to be placed on the downward side. There really isn't any other opportunity for erosion control, seaward of that, because it's all concrete and granite block.
Oh, okay. Understood.
So
Yeah.
we'll be removing those bricks and placing crushed stone in there. There really isn't going to be a huge opportunity for erosion. And the excavation that's going to happen in the parking lot will be well below this elevation, to be protected by a curb that it won't be able to erode into the resource area.
Okay, how are you removing the brick? I mean, I'm a little concerned, whether it be dust migration or chips or things like that getting into the water. How is that controlled?
Well, I guess we could put up a fence with a mesh in it to make sure that nothing could blow that way, or even a silt fence for that matter, just to prevent anything from blowing over.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, you tell me. I mean, it feels like there are going to be maybe particles, might not be the right word, but materials or fines that are going to be able to be lifted by the wind and deposited elsewhere. Or am I like
But
off base
you're
here?
not out of line at all, Mr. Parker. There's often wetting down as they go
Yeah.
along on things like that. But I'm trying to relieve Rick Salvo, the engineer, because that's more of a construction management detail, which of course is in your standard conditions anyway, that you'll be looking at those and approving the plans.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I think in the construction management plan that we received before construction, we want to see a little bit more about controlling of fugitive dust or debris.
Particles, yep.
Okay. Okay. So next question I have is actually, Rick, you talked about that that the wall could be adaptable, for future sea level rise. Have you consulted with the Office of Climate Resiliency to make sure that what you're doing here is not not, I don't know, at counter purposes with anything that they're planning for the area. I know, what is it, the District Wharf Council over there in the city have been doing a lot of work and investigations. So,
We did have a meeting. I think it was during either during the MEPA process or short after the MEPA process. We did have a meeting with that office and presented the plans. There was a request for us to get the Harbor Walk up as high as we can. The issue that we have with elevating it much higher is we need to get there, right? We have fixed points at the beginning and at the end that we need to get to, and we need to be able to get ADA access to this thing. We didn't want to create a roller coaster. But yes, we did meet with we meet with the folks in the city regarding coastal resiliency. So on and so
Allow me
forth.
to add City of Boston Climate Resiliency Office, the Army Corps, the ARIP plan, the North End waterfront section, and the wharf district as you're describing, plus the City of Boston Engineering Department and BPDA, and all were favorable.
okay, thank you, Jamie. In these discussions, was there talk about diversion of the waves? We're not in a velocity zone, right? Because from what Rick is saying, it sounds like floodwaters will, commercial wharf east will be protected, but the floodwaters may be going elsewhere. I don't believe this is a velocity zone, but has there any thought given to that and the impacts?
Yeah, we know that in the 100-year storm, and there's been king tides where that water's come over the top of that wall and floated by. And certainly in the design of that wall and the footing design of that wall, it will be designed to handle, that water sheet pushing up against it.
Okay, so the wall will be fine. I guess my concern or thought here is the potential volatilization of floodwaters onto adjacent properties, causing adverse impacts. So was there any sort of analysis done of that, or tell me what your thoughts are?
In terms of, are you talking floodwaters being able to be deflected to other properties?
Correct. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, the flooding source obviously comes straight in from the harbor, right? So it will, in this particular design, there's nothing on the ends preventing the floodwaters from coming around the obstacle that we'll be providing. But the floodwaters will reflect right back from where they're coming from when they hit this wall,
I think
If you go back,
Mr. Parker is asking about a more energized source of deflection, like the fluid dynamics. We're looking at a big wave going somewhere else. I'm not sure if you can visualize that area, but there is a bump out of other property at the end of this wharf, and it takes a lot of what comes in from Boston Harbor already. So you're not looking at a big wave coming straight at this property. And then the other end of it is the Joe's American and the current public curve around by Columbus Park. So there's not really an opportunity, there's no place where a big wave action is going to happen.
Sure. Okay. Good. That's very helpful. Thank you. And then finally, Jamie, I'm going to have to go back to you. I want to make sure I have the procedural posture correct here. So Rick said something about the MEPA process. I assume MEPA process is in the past.
Very.
Right? Yeah. The way distant future. Okay. All the Chapter 91 licensing is
ongoing. It's been filed. It's had its public hearing. It's had its comment period closed, and it's had a response to comments. But as you know, the license can't issue until the final order of conditions has gone.
Understood. That's what I was looking for. Okay.
And
Okay,
MEPA was
thank
an excruciating detail. It was full on, lots of comments, lots of analysis, and there's no lack of study and discussion.
Fantastic. I'm sure it made the project better. Okay. Just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. So I'm going to go to staff and then the commissioners, then we'll go to the public. Okay, Elena, what do you have on this?
Thank you. Yes. So the timeline for this filing, just for context, the commission probably noticed this. We received the initial filing in December of 2024. So I did have a quick question on the technical comment, which was in the portal from DEP. I just want to make sure that this has been properly addressed. I believe that a portion of this was already spoken to, but their technical comment in 2024 had been that the commission should verify that the proposed project is not increasing the elevation of the boardwalk that could impact the function of the floodplain. If elevations will be increased, the proponent must describe how or whether proposed changes to the site's topography, including the addition of fill, will result in changes to floodwater flow paths and or velocities that could impact adjacent properties or the functioning of the floodplain. I also did want to note that there are a number of public comments in the drive folder for the commission's review.
Okay, Elena, I'm sorry. Could you go back?
Of
You were
course,
talking
yes.
very fast there.
Sorry about
Could
that.
you just slow down a little bit and talk
Absolutely.
about whose comments were those that you were rattling off there?
Yes, so these were the technical comments that were in the portal from DEP.
DEP. Okay. Okay. And what were their concerns, if you could just summarize them very quickly?
Of course, yes. So their first question was just to verify whether the proposed, they refer to it as the boardwalk, but the harbor walk would be impacting the function of the floodplain. And the second piece of that is that if they are elevating it, they want the proponent to describe how or whether the changes to the site's topography would result in changes to the floodwater flow paths or velocities to adjacent properties.
Okay, so I think we touched on that a
Yes.
bit. Rick and Jamie, any other comments to those two issues raised by DEP?
Only beneficial impact to the floodplain in terms of climate adaptation for its use. I wouldn't even call it a floodplain. It's just bordering landscape to flooding. And changes to the site's topography, there are none. The harbor walk itself, of course, is elevated, but the site is slightly sloped, and that's not going to change. It slopes down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Commissioner Linay?
Yeah, I had a question on the detail that I think is on the previous slide. Would we be able to go back to that? And I think on this these call outs, it talks about that adaptable wall height. So I'm curious to know a little bit more about what that means in terms of the construction of this wall. And then if that is built to a height of 21.5, does that mean when you're on the harbor walk, you're essentially looking at about 7 feet of solid wall? Is that part of the anticipated consequence of that?
So when the wall that you're looking at on the water side, is not the wall that we're constructing. The wall that we're constructing is on the parking lot side. In this particular figure, the wall that you see on the water side is basically an illustration of some of the various discussions that have happened around the north end about future adaptation and future coastal resiliency methods. One of those methods included a wall, the seawall, being extended as high as elevation 21.5. That's where that elevation came from. There was no magic to it. But that wall that you're talking to on the water side wouldn't be built by us. That's a wall that's been contemplated and discussed about being constructed in the future.
So what you were describing then is the wall adjacent to the parking that would get
Correct.
taller?
That could, yeah, it's able to be made taller, yes.
I
And the
see.
way that we
And-
would do that is we would design the footing and the steel in the wall such that it could be extended.
Gotcha. Okay, so the harbor walk is outboard of that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Estes Margiazzi?
I don't have any detailed questions on this.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Herbst?
I just wanted to double check. I thought this was in a V zone. I thought or adjacent, or
It's directly adjacent to the V zone, yes.
yes. Okay. So,
The
I don't
property
have it
owned by Commercial Wharf is not in a V zone.
right. But you may see wave action from a
They
V
do.
zone.
Yeah. Forgive me for repeating it, but I think it helps for everybody to think. 2018 is when you saw enormous all over Boston. And even then, there was rising waters up to the curb on the edge of the building, but not to the building itself. And that was even in 2018. And it's not a intense wave action. It is rising, classic rising waters.
Okay. I don't have additional questions.
Okay. What were you thinking, Commissioner Herbst? Are you looking for some sort of
No, I just wanted to clarify because you had said you thought it wasn't in a V zone, and I just I mean it is V zone waters there. So, but I don't have anything further.
Yeah, I guess I was just looking at the property, off the property. So this is adjacent, apparently.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I guess we have some hands raised, and I just want to reiterate what was said at the top of the hearing here. This is the Conservation Commission, and we are charged with the work that is put in front of us and how that work may or may not impact wetlands resource areas. We're not really involved in design, except to the extent that it could impact resource areas itself. But with that, I guess we'll go to the raised hands here, and let me see who is first. Okay, Phil, if you'd like to unmute.
Hello, thank you. My name is Phil Papias-Philly. I'm an attorney at the Conservation Law Foundation. The filing claims this will be a managed, accessible, and ecologically responsive space. CLF does not agree that either of the two Harbor Walk design options accomplish this. First, the Harbor Walk's poor resiliency measures leave it vulnerable to inundation and deterioration that could make it unwelcoming or inaccessible to waterfront visitors in as little as 5 years. Within 25 years, sea level rise would cause king tides and storm surge in excess of 12 feet, overtopping the retaining wall. If the public frequently cannot access the Harbor Walk due to predictable near-term flood events, the proponent is not providing a sufficient public benefit. This inundation will also require frequent and costly maintenance, challenging the proponent's ability to manage the public amenity. The proponent's preferred solution, option 1, requires the construction of a concrete wall that would tower nearly 7 feet above the Harbor Walk, completely blocking pedestrian views of the watershed. Option 2 is slightly preferable, elevating the Harbor Walk on top of the landward concrete wall now, making the future concrete wall only 4 feet higher. This is still not ideal, as it would be a barrier to visibility for those whose sight line is below 4 feet, such as children and wheelchair users. CLF encourages the Commission to act within their discretion and condition the proponent's permit on a Harbor Walk elevation of 19.45 BCB in alignment with the design flood elevation under local flood resilience plans. Second, the legislative Harbor Walk requirement on this site is intended to provide public access for use and enjoyment of the waterfront. CLF feels these designs do not create a welcoming public space nor a meaningful public benefit. Since 1987, it's been best practice to construct Harbor Walk segments at a minimum width of 12 feet to improve accessibility. 10 feet is the legislative minimum and falls short of best practices here. Pavement striping along the length of Lot 7 is also inadequate, failing to provide safe, continuous, and accessible public access to the harbor. Striping falls short of looking like a continuation of the harbor. It does not protect pedestrians from vehicular traffic, as the parking lot circulation is to the left of the striped pathway and parking spaces are to the right. Nothing in the legislation precludes the proponent from meeting current and historical design standards and best practices for the Harbor Walk. We encourage the proponent to widen the Harbor Walk to a minimum of 12 feet in accordance with best design practices, continuing the timber boardwalk along the length of Lot 7, and installing a protective buffer between pedestrian and vehicular access. Lastly, neither option includes vegetation, and just quickly, we feel it is needed here as this would be the best practice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ellie from Councilor Coletta Zapata's office.
Thank you, Chair Parker. I did just want to say that Senator Edwards is also on if she wanted to go first. Or I could go.
It's up to you. Go ahead.
Go for it, Senator Edwards.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Sorry, Senator Edwards, I represent this area, and I was just coming on to speak in favor of this application and in favor of the Harbor Walk. I was one of the individuals that filed the special legislation, actually, that was passed in the State House. I was filed initially and passed by the House by Chairman Michaelwitz, and then ultimately it came over to the Senate. And we fought very hard, and I believe worked in good faith with many parties and many stakeholders to craft it in such a narrow way that both allow people to maintain their homes that they had invested in and did so under faith and trying to be in those condos. And ultimately, due to whatever happened with special legislation, they ended up in a different form of zoning. And we were trying to maintain their homes, but also not privatize the waterfront. And we felt that the mitigation of creating this harbor walk and creating this public accessible place was part of balancing getting the right balance. So I've been through and talked with and understood the many different perspectives and concerns about this, and I felt very, very good and very confident that the opponents would ultimately not only act in good faith, but act in a way that was balancing environmental stewardship and also maintaining their homes. So again, I hope that the CONCOM will allow or support, or I'm sure affirm, whatever the ultimate decision that you make for this harbor walk. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, back to you, Ellie.
Thank you so much, Chair Parker. Good evening, Chair Parker and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Ellie Sanchez, and on behalf of Councilor Colette Zapata, our office would like to go on record in support of the notice of intent to extend the harbor walk along Commercial Wharf East. This project is especially important as a climate resilience investment. Its elevated design and forward-looking engineering help protect against sea level rise, coastal flooding, and storm surge while creating infrastructure that can adapt over time. It represents the kind of proactive, privately funded resilience strategy we should be encouraging across Boston's shoreline. It also delivers long overdue public access, aligns with state guidance and prior legislative direction, appropriately balancing resilience, safety, and existing site conditions. The Councilor respectfully urges the Commission to support this proposal. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Tom Tillotson.
Yes. Hi, thank you. My name's Tom Tillotson, and I'd like to comment on the harbor walk before you tonight. I've been on Commercial Wharf for 56 years. I met my wife there, raised my son there. My father converted the wharf originally from warehouse to apartment in the 1960s. So I've witnessed firsthand almost all the developments along the Boston waterfront that make it what the public enjoys today. Before you. While I wholeheartedly support the construction of Harbor Walk on Commercial Wharf, I also strongly believe that one built should be one that maximizes the public's enjoyment as well as that of the owners of Commercial Wharf. This design fails that goal, in my opinion. Squeezing a 10-foot wide walkway ending at the wharf seawall edge when there's a unused wide water sheet space next to it seems wasteful and aesthetically objectionable. With its prime location as a continuance of the wonderful walking paths around Waterfront Park, this harbor walk extension deserves better. In 2004, contrary to what Jamie said, it wasn't 94, it was 2004, another design for a 12-foot wide walkway that extended 8 feet over the water sheet was proposed and approved by DEP as part of a previous Chapter 91 licensing agreement. I was delighted with that plan. Commercial Wharf even did preparatory work installing sheet piling to reinforce sections of our own seawall in anticipation of this project. However, the developer responsible for this plan reneged and it was never built. This is the design we should be discussing tonight. Further, and importantly, a new developer has recently acquired the lots 6 and 7 at the east termination of this proposed harbor walk. At the very least, commercial wharf design should be put on hold until this new participant makes their own plans to complete their sections of harbor walk, and this will make the final connection for a full west to east walkway on the south side of Commercial Wharf. The combined and completed walkway should be one that everyone will be proud of and that will best serve the public's enjoyment. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Tom. And I just wanted to say, as I said before, I understand your concerns about the design. That's not really within our bailiwick here. What we are looking at is the work that's put in front of us, how it's being conducted. So I don't know if your comments may be more or better directed to Chapter 91 program. But thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Cynthia Clark.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Clark. I live at Battery Wharf, so I'm a neighbor in the North End waterfront, and I support this proposal. It's going to improve both the safety and the attractiveness of the harbor walk in that area, which desperately needs it. And with the climate resiliency issue on everyone's mind in this area, I think any step in that direction is a good one. And the fact that this is all coming not at taxpayer expense, just makes it easy to support. Thanks.
Thank you. Derek?
Yes, thank you. I'm Derek Anderson. I'm a civil engineer with Arup. I am also the project manager for the North End Waterfront Climate Alliance's Flood Resiliency Plan, as well as the Wharf District Council's Flood Resiliency Plan. I just wanted to speak on how the proposed harbor walk is coordinated with those plans. It certainly is consistent with both. As my team at Arup was designing both of those plans, particularly the North End's plan, we were aware of this design, and we actually integrated the retaining wall that's included in this harbor walk in that design for the North End Waterfront Climate Alliance's plan. It's a good first step. It provides a near-term flood protection system that helps the Commercial Wharf area and can be integrated into the later steps that need to be taken either by the City of Boston or the Army Corps as they implement the plans, largely using the versions that we created for the North End Waterfront Climate Alliance. So just quickly, what the North End Waterfront Climate Alliance plan does is it takes that lower height concrete wall that's proposed in this plan, and it uses it as a base for a little higher harbor walk. So as that future concrete wall that was pointed out on the plan earlier, that kind of 7-foot tall wall out in the water, once that's built, the idea is that the harbor walk is raised up, so you don't have a big difference in elevation from the harbor walk, with a big tall wall next to it. So this design actually allows the incremental phasing of all this work. So we have a low height protection system that helps the properties on Commercial Wharf today, that then gets incrementally incorporated into the longer term plan through the what we're hoping to be the Army Corps' plan in the future. So I'm supportive of this from a flood resiliency perspective. I think it's a beneficial first step to providing that neighborhood flood protection system we need.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Okay, Jen, I understand you're on a business trip. Thank you for joining us. Would you like to speak?
Sure. Thank you so much. I am Jen Crampton, and I live across the street at 63 Atlantic Ave, and just wanted to provide additional support for the proposal. I think that it's a step in the right direction from an environmental perspective, and anything that can be done is great. And I think that the work being forward thinking about how to incorporate it into the plan that is being developed by the larger plan for the whole waterfront is good. And it's like, what can you do now to put this harbor walk there so people can actually use it, but then also thinking about the future and what may need to be done. So just providing support as a neighbor. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Joanne?
Yes, thank you. I have lived on the harbor for 30 years and have served as the president of the Friends of Christopher Columbus Park for 17 years. And over that time, I've seen our area develop and grow and beautify to ways I don't think most of us could even have imagined. The Greenway, of course, being the most amazing advance in the beautification. And this whole time, the wonderful Harbor Walk that is in front of Christopher Columbus Park just comes to an end right at Joe's American because it has not been extended as was planned over 30 years ago. To continue to delay this just impedes the continuity of the Harbor Walk, which people have worked so hard to create. And so I am fully in support of this, and I am just so much even more in support of it because it is a private effort that there is no government money going into. And that's how much this means to those residents who know what they face. I also happen to live at Harbor Towers, and we have our own resiliency project almost complete. So I think it would be foolish not to support this. There may be things that are not perfect, but the specter of that property being damaged because things weren't perfect doesn't make sense to me. So from the point of beautification, continuity, and protecting property that people are willing to pay for themselves, I fully endorse this. And thank you for the opportunity to share my 2 cents.
Great. Thank you, Joanne. And thank you for all your work at Christopher Columbus Park. I can tell you that your neighbors in Charlestown love when the blue lights go on every year.
Well, that's why I put that as my background because
Yeah.
it does it immediately identify.
Play into the crowd. Okay.
I am. Thank you very much.
Okay, Erica?
Thank you, Chair Parker and Commissioners. For the record, I am Erica Frazier with 4 Point Associates, and I am here on behalf of Ocean Havens, who own and operate Boston Yacht Haven and Marina, and I brought her to the project. And with me tonight is also Ann Legassi. As we know, Commercial Wharf already floods frequently, and we do not believe this project meaningfully improves the current or future resiliency. It appears to be a substantial investment in infrastructure that will soon need to be altered again as flooding worsens. As previously mentioned, the City of Boston and North End stakeholders are actively engaged in resiliency planning, but the proposal does not appear to be in alignment with that effort. Not only does it not advance the broader goal of protecting the neighborhood from future sea level rise and storm surge, but it doesn't adequately protect the neighborhood from the current flooding impacts. The proponent is proposing to raise the Harbor Walk from elevation 13.5 feet BCB to 14.5 BCB and to rely on a 16.5 foot BCB concrete retaining wall to block floodwaters. As stated in the NOI, and I know this was of question earlier, but the project site is within the FEMA flood zone VE, which has a base flood elevation of 19.5 feet BCB. This is nearly 3 feet higher than the top of the proposed wall. Being below the current FEMA flood elevation, the project does not provide meaningful protection, and it's not clear how it complies with the Boston Wetlands regulations, which requires infrastructure to be located 2 feet above the anticipated base flood elevation expected in the next 50 years. While the applicant states that the flood wall footing is designed for future top of wall elevation of 21.5 BCB in 2050, the North End Flood Resiliency Project points toward a future top of wall elevation of 21.5 feet in the 2030s. We are additionally concerned with how the Harbor Walk will be anchored to avoid uplift and what the mitigation measures will be to avoid the proposed crushed stone from being carried into the adjacent water sheet. We do believe that there are alternative solutions that can be considered to avoid the unnecessary impacts to wetland resource areas and to address future flood resiliency. For these reasons, we do respectfully request the Commission continue this matter so the applicant can return with a more complete and better supported design. And also, if anyone from my team wanted to add anything, or you could move to the next person with their hand raised, but those are our comments for the commissioners to consider.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Erica. Okay, I've got to go back here. So maybe I misunderstood the flood map here. Elena, can you help me out, or Commissioner Herbst? That looks like, is that in a VE or a AE zone? Elena, what's your understanding of this?
Apologies, just pulling up my maps.
Commissioner Herbst, are you looking at the firm map as well?
FEMA has the entire area mapped as Zone AE.
Okay.
The plans that were submitted do state that the project is within elevation VE.
So it looks like the portion, let's see, I believe the waterside area is mapped as VE. Oh, great. And now the
That line is so
labels are
close.
moving. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I know I looked at the MIPA comments, and I know there was a comment from CZM about it being in a V zone. So I don't know if when I'm looking at Mass Mapper, it looks like it's all in a V zone, but it sounds like we're all looking at something different.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I didn't get a chance to look at the MIPA comments. Did they ask for any study or analysis of wave action there? Do you know?
No.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
We had many comments, and they were all entered in enormous technical detail. We have many participants that are not fully informed on the facts, and I don't think this is the place to re-argue them. The facts are clear on the record. If you have any questions from the commission, we're more than happy to provide the factual answers.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're looking for here, Jamie. I mean, we're confused as to whether it's in a VE or an AE zone. And then was there an analysis done, if it's in a VE zone, was there an analysis done as to the wave action and volatilization onto abutting properties, how it affects the floodplain? Commissioner Herbst, did you go ahead?
Well, the one comment I saw from CZM, I think I was looking at the last MIPA action, was that they had a concern about that there's a gap between that it's essentially, I know you say it isn't cantilevered, but it extends out a little bit, so it creates a little gap. And so they suggested that it may be that there's a risk that it could create uplift on the walk.
Could you explain that a little more? I don't think I understand.
I can try. I don't have it in front of me, but essentially what I understood was they described a bit of a gap between the walkway, which extends a little bit out, and what's below it, and said that given that it's a V zone, that there potentially could be uplift on the walkway itself because of that.
I'm at a loss to understand what that would suggest. The Harbor Walk is on land owned, hard land, owned by Commercial Wharf as specified in the legislation. It has to be on Commercial Wharf property. That goes to the edge of the seawall, and it does not go into the water area. So I don't know what you're referring to. I could have to go back to the coastal zone management comments, which were then subsumed in response to comments and by the final MIPA certificate. So not all comments made by CZM were necessarily adopted by the secretary, as you know.
Right. It was separate. I think it probably wasn't. It was in the final MIPA certificate, I believe. I mean, it's in looking at your. Sorry, this is when being all online is really challenging. But when I look at your, I can't pull it up.
Well, while you're looking, let me ask our engineer, Rick Salvo, if he happens to know off the top of his head, because my memory could be different from his, and I'm just a lawyer. I'd rather the guy who checks the plans. I know what I think is the AE versus VE zone, but I'm wondering if Rick Salvo happens to have it available. You're on silent, Rick.
I'm looking at the FEMA map right now. The delineation between the AE and the VE is the edge of the water. And keep in mind, this whole area is pretty protected by Long Wharf. Like there isn't a wave fetch that could come straight at this harbor walk because you got Long Wharf, which is a couple of 100 feet away, right on the other side of you. There's no open fetch of water that could come into this. And the outer portion of the site is sort of blocked by Yacht Haven. That's what would take the brunt of any wave action. It would have to come around Yacht Haven, around the Tavistock property before it could even come in contact with this harbor walk. But the harbor walk, nonetheless, will be fastened to the ground. It will be fastened to the wall. It will be designed to withstand floodwaters coming up from underneath it, through it, and over it, and inundating it. But the idea of a 6-foot wave coming through this area, just there's not a big enough fetch coming at it. If you just look at those wharfs.
So just in terms of the maybe confusion about whether something extends out or not, I'm looking at the proposed boardwalk section in the upper left corner of page 2, I think, of your plans. And so when I look at the deck, it looks like there's a gap between the deck and the, I don't know exactly what it is, but the material below it. And I thought that's what CZM was referring to.
Yeah, if you come back, Elena, go to the photograph. Keep coming back. Oh, there you go. So where the gap exists is that little curb that's about 6 inches lower than the brick. So if you imagined the harbor walk sitting on this brick and extending out to the edge of the wall, that's where there could be a little gap.
And elevated, Rick.
Correct.
And as you can see from the photograph, there's no place for a sizable fetch, as they say, a wave, to come around and then sweep over and somehow overwash here. That's just not, it's a favorite allegation to get a factual dispute on an appeal, which is most likely what will happen, but that's not a realistic situation here.
If you look in this photo, you can see Long Wharf on the right-hand side that protects this pretty well.
Okay. Commissioner Herbst, anything else?
Nope, I was just trying to explain what I read in the MIPA final report.
Thank you very much. Very useful.
Okay, so before we go on with verbal testimony, I just want to state that in our files, we have 4 letters from abutters in support of the project. Ms. Gordon, Mr. Mazzarella, Ms. Hoffman, Ms. McDonald, and a support letter from City Councilor Louis Jean. So go back to public testimony. Lori?
Yes, good evening. Thank you all for your time today. I can assure you, my husband and I have been residents of Commercial Wharf. We're not abutters. We are part of the organization that is financing not only these plans, but hopefully the creation of the Harbor Walk. I can assure you we're on the first floor. There is no wave action here. I think that what I want to reiterate is some of the comments that have been made related to how this is going to enhance coastal resiliency, how it finally opens up the Harbor Walk in this particular area, which we have had massive criticism about, to the public. It satisfies the DEP regulations. It also provides some relief to the property owners, protecting our property rights. And once again, this is a voluntary effort. The cost to just get this point in the process and create these plans has been very expensive to these residents. I am in agreement with Senator Edwards. This is a good faith effort, a first step for all. Many of us on the waterfront are evaluating what we will do long term. but at least this puts out a first step in an effort to balance the public benefit and protecting the property rights of the people in this condominium complex. I'm happy to take questions. I think that the residents in this building, I can speak for almost all of them, are in favor of this project because it's been long awaited. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Kathy?
Hi, good evening. My name is Kathy Rocheleau. My husband and I own a condo at Commercial Wharf. And I want to thank you and everybody that's on the call tonight to consider this issue. I want to express that over many, many years that our board has been working with Representative Miklowitz, Senator Edwards, our lawyers and engineers, and the community to try to come up with a solution. And they have to consider many variables at this current time, not looking at what may have been done in the past that somebody wasn't held accountable for, but what those variables are today. And I believe that we've worked really hard to come up with a solution. And now we have the legislation in place for that resolution with this plan as presented. I respectfully disagree with Mr. Tillotson. I also believe that all the other owners at Commercial Wharf, at least the ones that I've talked to, are in favor of this plan as it is today. And just showing, again, as what's been presented, that Commercial Wharf will build and maintain this harbor walk at our own expense. Very importantly, it's going to provide safer public access. Right now, we have people walking down the middle of the parking lot, trying to walk in front of where those cars are parked and the concrete bollards. So it's a safety concern, which will be helped with the new harbor walk, as well as the climate resilience and flooding, and be able to build upon that as the needs change in the future. So I appreciate, again, all of your efforts, and I hope that you approve this process.
Great, thank you, Kathy. Ann?
Oh, am I on? Yep.
Yep.
Am I on, Pete? Okay, sorry about that. Hi, everybody. Ann Legassi, owner of Oceans Havens and director butter at Boston Yacht Haven. And Erica really handled a lot of our concerns in terms of, building in this area that's really not consistent with what we're hearing from the city in terms of building for resiliency. I also serve on Boston Harbor now. I mean, the entire city is very proud of our Harbor Walk, which we continue to build in our marinas. And as the gentleman said from CLF, the standards today are far different than what this small 10-foot wide harbor walk will do. I want to go on record. When Tom was talking about this PAL supported harbor walk that was planned prior to us being on the pier, we've been on the pier a little over the 10 years and continually see the flooding and what happens down there. That I think the community, I think Commercial Wharf, the residences would be far better served with a quality, well-designed harbor walk that meets current resiliency planning. And I want to go on record. We had met with the board years ago about working together on some type of harbor walk that would be over the water sheet, giving the width of 12 feet, allowing for the landscaping, the lighting, the benches, everything that's required in today's harbor walks. And that was rejected after many attempts, but I want to go on record. And the one thing I want to say too to everyone that I think this is an important time on the wharf. As someone mentioned, there's a new owner in the Lawyers Building, Urban Spaces, ourselves, and Commercial Wharf, and it would be a wonderful opportunity to all come together and do a quality experience there that everyone would benefit from. And I'm talking to the residences and obviously us and Joe's and the public. So just wanted to go on record with that and feel that this project should not be approved as designed because it's not going to meet any of the requirements of the harbor walks that we see built around the harbor today. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Jamie?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're echoing.
I'm not
Yep.
sure.
Do you have two devices on? Jamie, if you want, it might be better if you put your comments in the chat and I'll read them out.
Let me try one thing. Does that help?
No, it doesn't. If you don't mind, if you could put your comments in the chat, I'm just going to go on.
How does that work?
It's not working.
I don't know. Okay. Well, I apologize. Just I'll put my comments in the chat room.
Yeah, if you can put your phone on mute, that would be helpful. And then just type in the chat, and I'll make sure I read it out. Linda?
Yeah, hi, my name is Linda Orrell. I'm the Chief Impact Officer with Boston Harbor Now. Thank you for the chance to share these comments. I'll be brief. We did already file comments with DEP under Chapter 91, and I understand that's not within the CONCOM's jurisdiction, but just want to reiterate that we want to ensure that the project proponent is using best practices on the Harbor Walk, which is a 12-foot wide Harbor Walk. There's nothing that precludes the proponent from going wider than what the legislation says. You wouldn't be able to go smaller, but you should be able to go larger. And if you can't, Jamie, that's fine. The other issue we have is that the current resilient design will require that the project proponent goes back pretty quickly in order to raise the Harbor Walk and build a higher wall. We understand the Army Corps is coming out with its own proposed plans for what should happen throughout Boston Harbor to protect communities from climate impacts, and that there could in fact be a wall built here in partnership with the city. But we want to make sure that this design not only enables a future wall to be built, but that wall is continues to allow for public access, which includes visibility to the water, which means not only walking up to see the water, but also enjoying and accessing the water. So I'm not totally sure why a design is being built today that might eventually have to be upgraded and improved and very expensive in short order. But what we would rather see is a wide elevated Harbor Walk now that allows for public access, equitable public access to the water, including clear visibility. And that was it.
Okay, thank you, Linda. And just wanted to reiterate that we're looking at the project and the alterations in the work itself. We're not really involved in the design, so that's should be directed to Chapter 91 for the effect that you would like to have. Okay, so we've had a lot of discussion. I'm just going to go back quickly to commissioners, see if they have any questions or comments based on the discussions that we've heard here. Commissioner Linay?
I think just trying to understand again how this changes in the future and evolves. Can you remind me what the elevation of the Harbor Walk is in the proposed design? And then am I correct that I've heard it said that this would then be elevated down the road as needed, but I know there's an accessibility issue there. So just clarifying that.
Okay, Rick?
So the Harbor Walk right now is designed at elevation 14.57. The sidewalks that you would use to access that Harbor Walk are currently on the order of elevation 13 and change. So, this idea of being able to elevate a Harbor Walk up to elevation 19, number one, would block views much worse than they're being blocked under this proposal. And number two, you just wouldn't physically be able to get there from here. You'd be going straight, to give you an idea, to get from elevation 14 up to 19.
Yeah, it's a long ramp.
You need like 86 feet of that 260 feet, and you'd be 86 feet on the way down on the other side. So and you'd be on a catwalk well above everything else all around it. So I think the idea of creating a wall that services today's problems, and tomorrow's problems. I mean, keep in mind, this harbor walk is 1 foot higher than the 2050 mean high water elevation by sea level rise. I mean, the fact that somebody can't walk on this harbor walk during the 100-year storm event, I don't think it's very practical to expect people to be walking the edge of the harbor during a severe coastal storm that happens once in 100 years. But, I think that there has to be a point where this is resilient and it solves some problems and it's adaptable in the future so it can solve the future problems. But to suggest that a barrier, be constructed today that would be over 7 feet higher than this existing parking lot, just isn't a practical solution.
So in your mind, this is sort of a stopgap measure, and 25, 30 years from now, it'll
Correct.
probably be rebuilt.
If I may speak briefly to that, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Thank you. Please understand, this 260-foot stretch of Harbor Walk will be the first, at least when we applied, the first resilient, adaptable, privately funded harbor walk in Boston Harbor. It is a missing piece for reasons that go back all too far. And I think if anybody expects the federal money to start flowing to Massachusetts for a more holistic solution, I'd like to know what makes one think that's going to happen. Respectfully, I think going out 50 years for projected adaptability is pretty good for a first privately funded section on adaptability. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner S.S. Smargiassi?
Nothing further.
Okay. Commissioner Herbst?
Nothing from me.
Okay. And I see we had 2 hands that were up and then they went down. I think, Jamie, I think you were the person with the audio problems. And sorry, and we're going to have to cut it off at everybody speaking once. So Jamie, did you want to try it again?
Yeah. Yes. I still have the same problem.
Same problem.
Yeah, I moved into another room. I don't know what the issue is. I'll send my comments here, and I apologize, everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Support or against?
It's definitely support.
Okay.
And I own the Boston Sail-Off. I'll be brief. Between the neighbors that come in, and I've been down there since 1984. Honestly and truly, not just the neighbors who live in Commercial Wharf and also Lewis Wharf, but also the surrounding neighborhoods. All of them ask me the same question: when is the harbor walk going to be done? And I've been listening to this for 25 years. I remember when Doug Freeman built the condos, but I'll be brief. In support, and I mean this, the amount of people that come through the Sail-Off, the overwhelming majority of the people are in favor of it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jamie. And you can be assured your comments got captured 4, 5, or 6 times there with the echo. Okay, we have iPhone 82. That'll be the last public comment of the evening. *9 and then *6. Okay, whoever was on the iPhone, if you'd like to leave a public comment, I think we're going to be here a while this evening. Feel free to drop your comments in the chat. It'll become part of the public record. Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion, and I forgot whether, I don't think we had a special condition here. There was something that was going to be, and excuse that I forgot this, but there's something that was going to be provided in the construction management plan. And I think, Jamie, you made the point it would be. What was that again?
A fence to keep the debris. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
No, go ahead.
Thank you. Yep. Control of the debris on the sides
Yes.
there. Possibly a mesh fence. Okay. So I would entertain a motion to close the hearing, issue a order of conditions, and I don't think it needs to be a special condition. The construction management plan has to be presented to staff prior to construction pursuant to our standard conditions. Just in this case, we'd like to see, or they'll be looking for that debris containment issue that we talked about. Would anybody like to make that motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Linay,
Aye.
Commissioner Estes Margiazzi,
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So that carries 4-0. Okay, thank you, and thank you to everyone who took the time to comment.
Thank you, commissioners. I appreciate your service very much.
Okay. Okay, next item on the agenda, notice of intent for DEP file number 006-2120 in Boston, file number 2026-020 from AECom on behalf of the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation for the proposed pavement resurfacing and stormwater management improvements at Christian Herter Park, 525 Western Avenue, also known as 1175 Soldiers Field Road in Alston. Resource areas bordering the land subject to flooding, 25-foot riverfront area, 25-foot waterfront area, and 100-foot buffer to inland bank. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Good evening, Chairman Parker. This is Tom Keogh from AECom. I'm joined tonight by Tom Volton of DCR.
Great. Floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Could we move to the slide, please? Thank you. So our work will be happening around the Herter Park Amphitheater. It's mostly a maintenance project, resurfacing all of the roadways and the area for seating around the stage that you can see there in the center of the photo. As the chairman had mentioned, it is in within multiple resource areas and the buffer zone. If we could go to the next slide. You'll see we have our concentric circles ringing around from the wetland line, riverfront, waterfront, buffer zone, and right there in the bullseye upland of the buffer zone is the seating for the amphitheater itself. Now the site generally pitches from the bottom of this aerial image here towards the river. So the outer perimeter roadways that we have pitch in that direction as well. If we go to the next slide, please. And here's the floodplain. I did put that on two separate images because it just got too muddled with those multiple concentric circles as well as this. So when we started looking into the maintenance of the roadway resurfacing and other maintenance of the amphitheater itself, we noticed it was an opportunity to install some stormwater BMPs out there. Currently, there are no stormwater BMPs. So the roadway surface is shed to grassy areas, which then go to the moat that surrounds the amphitheater island with no treatment or pre-treatment. So we came in down in the lower areas to put in a constructed, it's called a stormwater gravel wetland. It's not a wetland in the sense that we all think of wetland. It's just an engineering term for it, as it's we did not have suitable separation to groundwater to go ahead and create a full-on infiltration basin there. So we're just going with the wetland swales surrounding the perimeter of the outer road. They will be constructed within bordering land subject to flooding. There's no fill being placed in the bordering land subject to flooding, so it's going to end up in an approximately, I think, 4,450 cubic foot increase in floodplain storage. Which sounds like a lot, but we are talking about the entire Charles River, so it's an incremental improvement at that, and that will retain water for a little bit through the attenuation on smaller storms. More than likely infiltrate all of it. And then for the larger storms, there will be a discharge to upland areas that are in between the moat and the stormwater swales. And if we could go to the next image, please. And this is just a selected page from the notice of intent. The commissioners all have this. I'm sure you can open it up at a scale that's a little easier to read than this. But I think this just kind of gets the point across where the stormwater BMPs will be just ringing that outer road to prevent untreated stormwater from getting into the moat and then the Charles River itself. Native vegetation will be placed within the swales once they're constructed. There'll be no trees or shrubs or anything like that. It's all low-lying vegetation. Just instead of putting something that would develop a large root ball that close to the roadway or anything that would start to hang over the roadway and become an additional maintenance problem. It's all just going to be low-lying vegetation. Relatively simple project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you, Tom.
Yep,
I don't think I have any questions here. I note the email between you, Dee Dee, and Jenna at DEP. And I think you made that point in your presentation that the proposed BMPs will not include placement of fill that would displace flood storage volume. Eleanor, was that the only comment that we got back from DEP?
I believe so, yes, that was it.
Okay, okay, great. What else do you have on this?
I didn't have anything to add, just some photos in the drive for the commission's review. We conducted a site visit, but other than that, I think that Tom covered everything in his presentation.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Linay?
I don't think I have any questions, actually.
Yeah, okay. Commissioner Smargiassi?
Nope, no comments on this maintenance project.
Okay. Commissioner Herbst?
No comments either. Thanks.
Okay, just want to remind members of the public, if you have comments, you could raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. I have to say, very impressed with all the work that DCR is doing over at Herder Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, that amphitheater that's fantastic. It's a nice area. Elena, I don't see any raised hands. Did you get any emails?
No emails, and I'm not seeing any raised hands either.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing and issue the order of conditions.
So moved.
Thank you. I'll take that as a move and a second. Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Smargiassi?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I'd vote aye. That carries 4-0. Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you for your time.
Okay, next item on the agenda, notice of intent for DEP file number 006-2121 and Boston file number 2026-021 from AECom on behalf of the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation for the proposed concrete replacement, step repair, and ADA compliant ramp installation surrounding the McKay Monument on Castle Island in South Boston. Resource areas are land subject to coastal storm flowage, 25-foot waterfront area, and 100-foot buffer to coastal bank.
And good evening again. This is Tom Keogh from AECom. And once again, I'm joined by Tom Vaulton of DCR, representing this project. If we could go to the next slide, please. So I'm sure all of the commission members are very familiar with this area. It was just a couple of months ago, we were in front of you with a large-scale maintenance and improvements project. And the decision for the McKay Monument, ADA accessible ramp and reconstruction was made just as we were submitting that NOI. So we had to, we didn't want to hold that process up as they're already doing work out there. So we had to submit a separate NOI for this effort. Next slide, please. So the steps of the monument are located within land subject to coastal storm flowage. You can see the green line is the waterfront and the blue is the buffer zone. So we're that's the buffer zone of coastal bank. And then seaward of that coastal bank, which is the granite retaining wall around the site, there's rocky intertidal shore and mud flats. Next slide, please. All right, so the project is going to include the removal and replacement of the concrete surrounding the monument, and that's just that large concrete rectangle that's outward of the granite base of the monument itself. They're going to repair the steps that lead up to it, installation of a new ADA ramp leading to the monument that will come as you're looking at this photo. It will be to the right-hand side and will tie into the backside of the monument. And then there'll be a small stone diaphragm along the southern side of the monument near the ramp in order to attenuate some stormwater. There are a couple of stormwater drains out there in the lawn now that will tie into and infiltrate. Next slide, please. And here's just a quick screenshot of the plan set, we could see the ADA ramp off to the left of the monument, and it was moved that far away in order to minimize any amount of excavation or disturbance in order to get the correct grade leading up to the back of the monument. We found that when we moved it closer to the monument, we ended up with some fairly steep slopes and a drop off from that monument on the left-hand side of the monument platform. So we moved it over a little bit. All the lawn areas will be reestablished in between the ADA ramp and the monument itself. Erosion controls will be set up. Equipment and materials, once again, will be stored out in the parking lot on the other side of the fort, away from this area here, and nothing will be stored within the land subject to coastal storm flowage. Next photo, please, or next slide. Here's a view of the monument itself. Everything's relatively easily accessible in this area for equipment to come up and move around the monument. One of the things I didn't get into, but we saw while we were out there on our site visit, and the commission has already administratively approved some repairs to the monument, is the concrete base that the monument is resting on is in poor condition. There are lots of voids in between the base and the granite base of the monument that are relatively deep. We're not sure yet, but we'll figure it out once they start to excavate, backfill, and compact that area in order to stabilize the monument itself. Next photos, please. And just a couple of views there. We could see the steps in the upper hand photo that will have to just be repaired in situ there. And you get a little better idea with the photo on the right of the grade as to why we didn't attempt to install the ADA ramp closer to the monument itself. As you can see, we already have about a 12 to 16 inch drop off at one point. And we would have ended up with, 18 inches to 2 feet in areas. And then, that creates a hazard in its own right. So it was moved off a little bit so we'd be able to maintain that grass in that area there. And then we tie in right where I believe we have Tom Vulton with the orange hat in the photo. And that would be it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Yeah, the only question I have is why is he wearing an orange hat? It didn't look that cold out. But
safety first, I guess.
Safety first. There we go. Okay. I don't have anything on this. Elena, do you have anything?
Similarly, no, nothing to add of substance, just some site visit photos in the folder for the commission to review.
Okay. Did you wear an orange hat while you were out there?
No, we really would love our own orange hats. We do have matching baseball caps at the
Safety
environmental
first.
quality. So it's
Safety
something.
first when you visit these monuments.
It's
Okay.
true.
Okay. Commissioner Linay?
I just had a couple questions. How long will this work take? And then is there a pedestrian rerouting, or are they able to continue to use the path during construction?
Right now, there's a pedestrian rerouting during working hours because the team is out there putting in that slope stabilization that the commission had previously approved. So they're working right in that area in front of the monument. But when the work day is done, the public has access to that. So if we want to go back to one of the photos, probably. Well, I think this one would suffice. There is another walking path, and in the photo on the right, you can just make out some park benches up by the fort. So the public during the workday, has access to the area via that path, and that will continue. And then once the workday is over, the guys have been wrapping up around 3:00. Then the entire island is open to the public.
Gotcha. And then, how long for the work did you say?
Probably 4 to 5 weeks. So once again, this is on schedule. Everybody's going like gangbusters to be ready by the 4th of July.
That's great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Margiazzi?
Any changes in where the runoff's going with this work? Assume it's all sort of right now. Is it just flowing down to the work you're doing right now at the water's edge?
That's correct. We are putting in a stone diaphragm to attenuate some of that, but for the monument itself, there really are no changes. It will just, it's tough to pick up on these photos, but there is a slight grade change where the flow goes to each side of the square. It all doesn't come back towards the steps.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
if you can imagine, as we're looking to the right, we see the joint in the concrete.
Yeah.
To the left of that, the runoff sheds to the left. To the right of that, the runoff would shed down the steps. And you could flip that and get the same. So some of it's going to lawn areas and a little bit of it is coming to the steps. But there'll be no change in that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Herbst?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Just want to remind members of the public, if you want to provide public comment, please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. And Elena, I don't see any hands up.
I see no hands and nothing in our inbox either.
Okay, nothing in the chat. Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing and issue an order of conditions.
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Esses-Marchiazzi?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 4-0. Okay, thank you, Tom.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Next item on the agenda, notice of intent for DEP file number 006-2125 and Boston file number 2026-024. And I will note those file numbers just came in the event that they're not in the public notice from, is it Pear or Pare Corporation on behalf of the CCC Realty Trust for the proposed removal and replacement of a section of eroded riprap embankment at 30 to 50 Terminal Street in Charlestown. Resource areas 25-foot riverfront area, designated port area, coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and 25-foot waterfront area. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Good evening. My name is Lauren Gluck with Par Corporation. Also here with me tonight is Matt Belisle from Par Corporation. So I'm happy to speak to the project.
So both of my tries, each one of them were wrong.
Unfortunately.
It's par. Okay.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I hear it all the time. We're used to it. People say pair, pare.
That's what I did.
It's
okay.
But think of a good hole in golf.
Yeah.
And we'll get it right every time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Back to you. The floor is all yours.
Great. Thank you. Yep. So again, we're here from Par Corporation to present the Charlestown Commerce Center Bulkhead Erosion Repairs Project on behalf of the CCC Realty Trust. The project site is at 50 Terminal Street in Charlestown. Next slide, please. Okay. Just to orient you to the site here, our site is at 50 Terminal Street, bordering the Mystic River. There's a close-up view at the aerial on the right. Where there's a recently completed bulkhead rehabilitation project, and our site is just at the western limit of that, to the north of the CCC building. Next slide, please. Okay, so some background on the project. The steel sheet pile bulkhead supporting the site was recently rehabilitated. The work was completed back in 2022-2023 under DEP file number 006-1748. So in addition to this notice of intent tonight, we are requesting a certificate of compliance to close out that project prior to approving the currently proposed work, as that order of conditions has since expired. But we did take a look at it during our site visit, and Elena and the other staff members seemed satisfied with the work, and it was completed in accordance with the approved plans. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are just some photographs of the area of the project that needs some help after some erosion and pavement. I'm sorry, I have a little lag on my end. I can't see the slide. It's kind of frozen. So anyway, there we go. Okay. Thank you. So right where the newly rehabilitated sheet pile bulkhead meets the adjacent riprap slope, there was some erosion observed back in fall of 2024, along with some pavement deterioration in that area of erosion. And we're currently proposing repairs to stabilize this area long term. It's a low-lying area that's receiving some runoff, and then there's some undercutting in the pavement. It's a fairly small area, but the proposed work is will stabilize this area long term. It's a very small footprint within the resource area, which is shown on the resource area plan, which I believe is attached in the next slide. So we can go on to the next slide. Okay, so this is our proposed work plan, and then highlighted in different colors are the resource areas. So we are on this riprap revetment slope along the Mystic River. So we do have a coastal bank here. In this case, it corresponds to the top of the slope, the top of the riprap slope, and the top of the recently repaired bulkhead. The high tide line is shown in blue. We have a 25-foot riverfront area off of that, and then we have a 25-foot local waterfront area off of the coastal bank. In addition, in purple is shown the 100-year flood elevation, which is elevation 10, NEVD 88, but the plans are in mean low water, so that was converted to about elevation 15. In dark gray is the proposed repair area, which is a pretty small sliver of the slope right adjacent to that bulkhead, where we'll be installing a sediment control barrier, removing the existing riprap, and then installing an underlying bedding stone over geotextile fabric to provide improved stability and drainage below that riprap before it's then reinstalled back to the existing grade. And then in that area of the deteriorated pavement upslope, the compromised pavement will be removed, and then a new flush concrete curb will be installed, which you can see in that cross section, to act as a cutoff wall at the edge of the pavement. And then the underlying void will be backfilled with 3/4-inch crushed stone over geotextile fabric and then repaved to match the current pavement. Next slide, please. And then this resource area plan just shows the different areas. There's quite a lot going on here because we have some overlapping local and state buffers and floodplain. But overall, it's a pretty small work area, as you can see. There is work along the man-made coastal bank, within the floodplain, the 25-foot riverfront and waterfront areas, and then the whole site is within the 100-foot buffer zone. And then in blue, we also just highlighted the intertidal areas where the work is proposed. A small portion of this work is below the mean high water elevation, but there's no work below the mean low water elevation. Next slide, please. And then in our NOI submission, we addressed the various performance standards under the WPA, as well as the additional performance standards under the local ordinance for land subject to coastal storm flowage in developed areas. Also, just to note that these repairs are designed to provide long-term stability to a vulnerable area, and acknowledging that the increasing wave action, sea level rise, and storm intensity, requires this area to be fortified long-term. And we believe that with this work area being as small as it is, we're avoiding and minimizing impacts. We're working entirely within man-made shorelines, and then all of the staging and stockpiling will be in the paved areas existing upslope, and we've minimized that footprint to a very small area. Next slide, please. So that concludes our presentation, and in conclusion, we are seeking to close out the former order of conditions. We're seeking to close out the former order of conditions with a certificate of compliance, and then seeking a new order of conditions to complete these proposed repairs. We'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lauren. So if you don't mind, we will vote on the COC in our regular meeting. That's the way we have it laid out in the public notice. So chances are you will have a an open order of conditions for a period of about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're taking that up tonight, and I've been told that all the conditions have been satisfied to issue the certificate of compliance. So we'll be taking a vote on that later. Okay, so the issues there you're saying are precipitated by the tugs and I guess the tankers that go in with the cars and everything else. That's what's going on over there. That's the activity that seems to be wreaking havoc on your infrastructure.
Yeah, we've got wave action that is occurring at the edge of the steel bulkhead and the stone revetment, and that seems to have increased some of the erosive effects on that single layer riprap that was there initially.
Okay, and you're thinking it's coming from the marine traffic?
Pretty much from the marine traffic. Some's coming off of the parking lot, but it is primarily the marine. So we evaluated the riprap sizing for the waves that are anticipated from the marine traffic as well as from the wave action that may occur.
Okay, so what are you doing? Are you putting in larger rocks, larger riprap to?
It's actually we're filtering the embankment materials, because what happens is the wave energy is getting through the larger armor stone. The armor stone isn't being washed away. The soil underneath is being washed away and it's beaching back. So we're putting in the layered riprap system so that we can armor and protect the slope itself so we don't lose our base materials, and then keeping the armoring on the outside.
Oh, great. Thank you. Understand now. Okay. Elena, do you have anything on this?
I apologize. I have to admit, I just took a bite of my dinner. I do not have anything on this. No. As Lauren mentioned, we conducted the site visit for both, and there are some photos in the drive folder of both the COC project area as well as this new project area covered by the notice of intent.
Okay, and a simple thumbs up when you're in a compromised position like that.
I'm so sorry. This is a behind the scenes moment.
Okay, as a reminder to members of the public to provide public comment, please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Commissioner Linay?
I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Okay, Commissioner Smargiassi?
Me neither.
Okay. Commissioner Herbst?
I do have a question, and so maybe it's something I missed. I just didn't understand how you will do the erosion control, given that it's in the water partly. That are you planning on a turbidity curtain or something else?
It'll be a turbidity curtain anchored at the corner of the riprap and then tied back into the bank.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for asking that question. And those work when you're in shallow water, right? I mean, the issue we have where they can't use turbidity curtains or when they're getting a little far from shore, right?
Correct. It'll work in the shallow water and it'll rise and fall with the tide. But we won't have the issue of it lifting off the ground because the water's shallow enough.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Eleanor, if you're not eating, could you just give me a thumbs up on whether
All
you
good.
got any
We
emails? We're all good?
yes, nothing in the chat,
Okay.
no public comments. Thank you.
Back to dinner. Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing and issue an order of conditions.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Smargiassi?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And
Aye.
I vote aye. That carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
next item on the agenda, notice of intent for DEP file number 006-2124 from FOATH on behalf of the Massachusetts Port Authority for the proposed removal of existing pier infrastructure and the restoration of coastal beach within the footprint of the pier at 1257 and 1263 Saratoga Street in East Boston. Resource areas: coastal bank, coastal beach, land containing shellfish, land subject to coastal storm flowage, 100-foot buffer to coastal beach, 100-foot buffer to coastal bank, and 100-foot buffer to salt marsh. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Yes, thanks, Chair Parker, members of the commission. Chris Bush, Senior Environmental Planner with Massport, here this evening with our Deputy Director of Capital Programs, Sarah Denichuk, Project manager Matt Bissett and Mike Vadalaro and Anthony Guerrero from our community relations office, and our consultants Paul Marsala and Fiona Varde of Foth. Next slide, please. Great, and move on to the next, please. Thanks. So I'll just cover background and existing conditions and then hand it off to Paul and Fiona. So this location is Massport-owned property just off of Saratoga Street, just north of the airfield. The Belle Isle Inlet is just to the east of this site. This project is functioning as offsite mitigation for subtidal and intertidal impacts associated with the Runway 27 Safety Area Improvement Project at Logan, which was permitted by the Commission last July. And there was actually a condition in that order codifying mitigation at this location. The mitigation project and its design is the result of really a lot of meetings and engagement with state resource agencies, both before and through the MEPA process for the project. Next slide, please. So for existing conditions, the shoreline consists of timber pier and bulkhead that have really fallen into disrepair, as well as mixed granite and concrete block. The community and stakeholders have actually been asking Massport to improve the condition of the shoreline, so this project gives us that opportunity. Just to the west, we've got FAA infrastructure and a localizer under the Runway 22 approach. These parcels are part of the secure airfield, so they are fenced off, and public access is prohibited to these areas. And I'll hand it off to Paul to cover resource areas.
Chris, I'm sorry, what's an FAA localizer?
It's Sarah may be able to speak more specifically to that, but I think it's part of the radar and just sort of approach technology necessary for airlines to safely come into land. So those are the aircraft that are coming right over the Belle Isle Marsh, over Lynn, and right into the north end of the airfield.
Okay, they sound important. Okay, thank you.
Next slide, please.
Thanks, Chris. I could take it from here. As was introduced here earlier in the presentation by the Commission, we have Coastal Beach, Coastal Bank. There is land subject to coastal storm flowage in the upland portion. The very seaward rim, about 4 or 5 feet wide for the entire perimeter, is land containing shellfish. It adds up to about 800 square feet total, I think. And we are in buffer zones of all of those, as well as salt marsh buffer zone. There's salt marsh to the south outside of the project area. While it's technically coastal beach, given the regulations, we are, based on some previous feedback we've had from CZM, we are calling out rocky intertidal shore. There's a bridge abutment with some rocky stone, and then I think the Commission's aware of some back and forth we've had with CZM. So it's coastal beach, but we are also tentatively calling it rocky intertidal shore as well. Next slide, please. So for our proposed plan, as Chris mentioned, there was quite a bit of back and forth with the agencies, CZM, and we landed at this final design. The design criteria was really based on mostly CZM feedback, but all the regulators to maintain the existing shoreline that's to the south and continue it upward in a natural fashion until it meets the existing bridge. So it's really the intent is to restore what would have been the natural shoreline here had there not been a man-made structure artificially putting this out into the water further toward the channel. So the proposed plan is to demolish the existing timber pier and bulkhead that's in disrepair. Then it would include excavation of about 5,300 cubic yards to facilitate revetment construction. This will also create coastal beach. We'll install the partially buried 1.5-on-1 stone revetment. And this design also includes a cobble beach to the north limit, which is adjacent to the bridge abutment to help tie into habitat, and where our design has the contours and the slope is a little bit greater than a 4-on-1. We're introducing some cobble beach instead of just relying on the natural angle of repose of sediment. A small portion of the material may be used on site and stored and then reused to either rebury the revetment or do final grading of the site, whereas the remainder of this material is intended to be trucked upland to a disposal facility. This all creates approximately 13,000 square feet of coastal beach in that shaded gray area on the plan. This is in front of the buried stone revetment. And as I mentioned, the topography of this design matches the existing elevations of the coastal beach to the south, which is comprised of the same makeup material. Next slide, please. This is a cross section to help visualize what we're talking about as far as the buried slopestone revetment. So through, as Chris mentioned, the back and forth with agencies and the what I call critical infrastructure, in lieu of myself also not having known what the localizers were, I would just call it critical massport infrastructure, as well as the location approximate to the bridge abutment and Saratoga Street. We have a hard solution for protection to protect all those features, but then covered by soft solution, which is partially burying that hard solution and allowing coastal beach to be reclaimed in the area. So it's the 1.5-on-1 partially buried revetment, which you see on the left of the cross section. You see off to the right is the removed derelict pier. The hatched area is the excavated current landform that's there, and the resulting solid black line is the nicely gradually sloping, approximately 10-on-1, but variable slope coastal beach. There is some temporary excavation also required in the crosshatch in order to facilitate the construction of the revetment, and then that will get recovered so that the coastal beach will extend from mean low water to the right, and it will come and hit the revetment up at about the annual high tide line. So that's all coastal beach. We do have a toe stone buried just below the mean low water line for resiliency in the future. Next slide, please. So this is a side-by-side of the existing and the proposed condition. So you can see the current condition on the left with the man-made structure. There's also some fill in there. It's restored more naturally to what the coastline would have looked like had that structure not been there. The design takes the exact topography and the contours from the coastal beach that exists to the south and carries them up smoothly towards the bridge abutment. Next slide, please. So we did just want to add a little bit on the sediment itself. So there was extensive sediment analysis done in support of this project. An initial sampling was done earlier, I believe, in 2024, and then supplemental sampling was done thereafter. This site is an AUL. It was all work was done under the guidance of an LSP. All materials at the elevations, the proposed future elevations, has been assessed, and preliminary risk assessment has revealed no issues with the proposed design, and the LSP will be retained throughout the duration of the project. Samples were also collected for suitability determination, and a upland facility where this material is suitable will the assessment's currently underway, and there's no red flags or any reason to think that this will not be accepted anywhere. I believe that's all I had, but next slide. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So a couple quick questions for you. I guess I'll go backwards. Regarding the AUL, so what are the what's the strategies to make sure that, well, I'll preface this with, if there's an AUL, there is probably contaminated soil that's being left in place somewhere subsurface. So what's the confidence in that those soils remain contained in the subsurface?
Yeah, so there's high confidence. So what we did was with the additional geotechnical investigations and then sediment sampling, I believe conducted 12 samples at the advice of our LSP that went down well past the required proposed depths. So essentially the future elevations of what the proposed plan will be, we went past that. Those increments were analyzed by the risk assessors with the LSP subcontractor to show that the future and proposed sediments that will be exposed pose no threat to any threat to health of the community, and that it all falls consistently with the determination that was in the AUL. As far as containing the soils, it is, we also looked at the grain size. It's fairly coarse and sandy soils, so we don't anticipate, it's not very silty, and we don't anticipate anything more than really that you would see during any normal excavation. This is being treated as dredging as it's in the intertidal zone, and so 401 water quality is on the list. They've been involved in all of the pre-application and interagency meetings, and they're aware of the project. And so we'll be going through all the normal things we need to do with them as if it were a dredging project. And so I'm sure we will suss out anything to address the question that you have during that process.
Okay, I appreciate that. So the risk assessment was done by a risk assessor. That's obvious. Well, hopefully obvious. And that's all filed as in the DEP database, because this probably is an RTN site since it has an AUL.
I'm not sure if maybe if Madeline is on, she could speak better to that. But yeah, so the LSP that has been involved in this site prior to this project is the same LSP that's been carried forward. So they've updated their risk report, and they're being retained for this project specifically in consultation to ensure that we remain in compliance with all the determinations that have been made.
Okay, good. So as you're going forward, the risk assessor is still involved in the process. Okay.
Correct. And that will be during construction. We anticipate, any time that we're working on site, it'll be under the supervision of the LSP.
Okay. Okay. As far as the modeling that was used, you made a couple of comments about where the water is going to hit the revetment. So what sort of modeling was used to determine how this is going to perform?
Sure. So we have,
and I'm sorry, I thought of this after, and how it will perform in the future, given sea level rise.
Yeah, so we have coastal engineers on staff that they essentially take the wind directions and the fetches during storm events. They use NOAA data previously, as well as future projections with sea level rise. So that's they use that for wave loading. In this situation, it's actually ice loading that is the driving criteria of our revetment design, believe it or not, and not wave loading, even during storm events, given the relatively protected nature. So that's what was driving the engineering analysis and performance of the revetment. As far as sea level rise, given the proximity to the Saratoga Street and making sure we need all stormwater to flow off the site, the revetment itself cannot block any of that. So as far as raising elevations, sort of limited by the surrounding topography as far as how high it could get. But essentially during storm events, the energy was considered for revetment design.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. And last thing for me, DMF letter, sorry. And so I assume you've seen this. They determined they didn't recommend a TOY restriction, but they did recommend work be sequenced, such as excavation, pile removal, and all other silt production activities be conducted in the dry construction materials staged upland, and sediment and erosion control BMPs will be implemented. So I guess they have silt fences, fiber rolls, silt socks, or cofferdams. So you're okay with all of the conditions in the DMF letter?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Eleanor, what do you have on this?
Thank you. Yes, I believe that your questions covered anything that I would have mentioned. The only additional note is that there is a public comment in the folder for the commission's review.
Yeah, I see Cindy Baxter, Friends of Belle Isle Marsh. She also has her hand up, so we'll be hearing from her in a few minutes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Linay. Commissioner Linay, you're on mute if you're talking. And if we lost you, I'll go to Commissioner Smargiassi.
Interesting mitigation work. Can you describe where the fence line is? Is that entire area still going to be off limits?
Yeah, so the fence line will not change. The fence line is essentially 10 or so feet south of Saratoga Street. The roadway runs, in the east-west direction along the entire northern property line. And then it is quite a bit back from, there's essentially two Massport parcels, the one that contains the critical infrastructure, and this is a separate parcel. And it is some few hundred feet back from the crest of the revetment. So quite a bit of area still between the revetment and the adjacent parcel.
Okay, so it's a natural mitigation, visual mitigation, but no access.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Linay?
Sorry about that. I was just curious, actually, if you knew the depth of the pier and the bulkhead that's out there that you'll be removing.
The depth of the piles?
Yeah, the piles.
Yeah, we don't know that yet. So, best practices will be to remove the piles in their entirety. And if that's not possible due to breakage, which does happen with this with this age of piling, then they will be cut at or below the mud line. The exact depth of the piles are not known on this structure.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Herbst?
Couple questions. I saw that one of the things I think DEP requested was that you do a grain size analysis, and I know you talked a lot about a sediment sampling, but have you done the analysis for the? I think it's about sand, matching the sand in the.
Yes,
area.
yeah. So we did look at grain size during the geotechnical investigation. So not during necessarily the sediment, the secondary sediment sampling, but the initial geotechnical investigations for the engineering design had grain size analysis for the entire depth, and we've confirmed that the grain size of sediment at the proposed new locations match what is adjacent at the beach, that there weren't any surprises. Essentially, it's not fill, it's not urban fill. It is in fact naturally occurring muddy sandy sediment that is adjacent. Also, it is what matches. It's nothing surprising that was placed down there, if that answers.
Okay, thank you. And I had only a brief chance to look at Ms. Baxter's letter, but she does ask about monitoring going forward, and it is kind of a big project. So I'm wondering what the plans are for that.
Is this the Friends of Belle Island?
Yeah. But really, my question is, given that this is a big project and a restoration project, what kind of plans exist for monitoring and coping with any issues that come up?
So currently, no plans have been required through the MEPA process. None of the regulatory agencies that have been involved have recommended any short-term or long-term monitoring to date. We do have to file officially with all those agencies as the next steps following this hearing in front of you guys. So if that does come up, we would cross that and discuss that then. Currently, no plans for monitoring.
But I think the commission requires a standard practice, sort of reporting forms or observation forms that we need to submit as part of the pre-construction package, and I think turbidity is something that will be the focus of any impacts in terms of the surrounding area and habitat. So if the commission wants to more pointedly reference sort of daily observations and reporting on turbidity in the surrounding area, and stabilization of the coastal beach, and again, we can provide those as needed to commission staff if that's helpful.
I appreciate that. I was really thinking more long terms. We sometimes require for vegetation, for example, looking out 1, 2, and 3 years. It sounds like that isn't something in your thinking right now, but I'm wondering if it should be, given that a new beach is going in.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it didn't come up. We probably had half a dozen meetings with all the state resource agencies, and that did not come up. I know with some of these projects, yeah, particularly with vegetation, it is something that is on point. But if the commission wants to have some level of inspection and observation and reporting, some months after, we can most definitely do that.
I'll let the other commissioners weigh in on that. That's it for me. Thanks.
Yeah, so Chris, it's interesting, and thank you, Commissioner Herbst. And I have in my notes here the 401 water quality process. How does that play into it? Is there long-term monitoring that's required for that permitting?
Typically, no, that will be for dredge and for fill for that process. So the conditions they have are typically related to turbidity, as Chris mentioned. So during construction, sort of monitoring. I think long-term monitoring is more focused on when there is a restoration of say vegetation. Again, that, like Chris mentioned, I think from the runway project, it was a 1-to-1 recommendation, and the resource area was subtidal and intertidal coastal beach that didn't require vegetation. I think over time, vegetation very may well migrate north from the salt marsh, since we are recreating a very similar habitat for that vegetation, but there isn't any vegetation being planted to be monitored at this time.
Okay, so let's have a little bit of a discussion on in the future what sort of monitoring events that could take place that would be submitted as part of the filing here. So, Chris, any thoughts? And Commissioner Herbst, are we thinking about sedimentation? Are we thinking about water quality itself, testing of the water, or performance of the new infrastructure and what that might be doing? How would we, if we wanted to monitor this going forward?
Yeah, I think it'd be performative of the revetment, stabilization, setup of the the new coastal beach and turbidity. I mean, we are at the inlet there, so there is a fair amount of flow, underneath the Saratoga Street, that bridge there. So yeah, just keeping an eye on the site, I think most specifically during construction for turbidity, and then, ensuring sort of setup and, ensuring that the grades, and we have a stable profile for that coastal beach. Water quality, I'm not real clear on, given, there's just a lot in that area. I mean, with the Belle Isle Inlet, I mean, you've got major, stormwater infrastructure feeding out of East Boston, Revere, that are coming out through that area. So I mean, aside from visual inspection for turbidity, I don't know how the project would impact sort of the water chemistry or salinity necessarily.
Yeah, understood. When I was thinking of water quality, I was thinking of the something that might migrate off of the property itself, given its AUL status or its 21E status. But again, I think that'd be pretty difficult.
Yeah,
measure.
I think, Paul, there's going to be like a fairly substantial liner behind that that revetment, correct? I mean, there's
correct geotextile
sort of a
fabric
design to sort of enclose and ensure We don't have, material migrating out from behind the revetment. So, there'll be engineered materials, installed first before the stone goes down.
Okay. So Commissioner Herbst, what are you thinking about a couple of annual reports, maybe for the next 2-3 years going forward regarding the turbidity?
Actually, I was really more focused on the stability of the beach, whether it's migrating to other, whether it's migrating, whether it's functioning the way intended, and
okay,
I think that could be, 1, 2, and 3 years. Well, obviously at 3 years, we'll want to see a certificate of compliance, but that's really mainly my what I was thinking about, is just knowing whether it stayed stable or whether it migrated, and is that if it does, is that a problem, or just how has it functioned?
Understood. Okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, we can report on that. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Okay, let's go to the public. So Cindy, I know you've been waiting patiently, and we stole one of your issues here and talked it over without you.
Yeah.
So your turn.
No, I'm very grateful. Thank you for addressing it. So we are, I'm speaking on behalf of Friends of Belle Isle Marsh, and I won't go through the intro of who Friends of Belle Isle Marsh is. They have been around for over 40 years and consider themselves the caretakers of the marsh. One of the key issues is that when I went through the NOI, and I admit that I went through it briefly, I was not aware of a lot of the state level documentation. I still need to get that done, and we'll keep an eye on that. But one of the key concerns we had about the NOI was it didn't address anything to the north, which is Belle Isle Marsh. And Friends of Belle Isle Marsh is concerned about water flowage, potential velocity, and salinity changes that could occur with the reconstruction. So we're very grateful for the mitigation, but bringing it back to what it was may have some degree of impact on a marsh that is currently being restored by the Army Corps of Engineers and the DCR. And we want to make sure that it is being looked at, and it did not seem that that was the case. So that was our first issue that I have also put in writing. The other thing that was of concern was that on the list of abutters, unless I missed something, the only abutters mentioned were Massport itself. And in fact, of course, the DCR is the property manager for Belle Isle Marsh and should be listed. We would like that corrected for especially as this project goes forward. We do rely on the DCR to be the abutter, keeping the community informed so that we know the status of the project, and of course any rights that they have to information as an abutter is probably going to do a much better job than I do as I start running through things. The next item is the one that the commissioners addressed. Again, I'm very grateful for that. We are concerned that during the project as well as after the project, there will be valuable information available. We've got state and federal agencies already looking closely, not to speak of the municipalities that I know are not part of what Massport has to look at. But given all of the work at this nature-based solution, we do want to make sure that as much monitoring can be considered by the commission, again, on a going forward basis to make sure everybody's really aware of what's going on. And then finally, there's just one small item. We did attend a site visit. One of the Friends of Belle Isle Marsh board members, Mary Mitchell, had mentioned the fact that there's this rather large boulder that is moving right along, and it looks like it's now in the navigable waterway. And it was something that one of the site visit attendees, I apologize that I don't recall who it was, mentioned would be addressed. So I do want that noted if possible. It is a rather large boulder, and certainly members of Friends of Belle Isle Marsh are happy to go back out and point it out. It is moving its way into that waterway right at the site. And I think that covers everything. Once again, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak and the fact that Massport has taken this on as the mitigation project for the runway 27. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so Chris, as far as impacts to the marsh itself, what was considered in your analysis here?
Well, Paul, you had, I guess, taken
Yeah.
a look. I mean, you already spoke to the evaluation of the sort of shoreline design and sort of mitigating anything related to sort of wave action and whatnot. And there's also I guess, the narrowing of with the bridge abutments there. I think that's really the more significant limiting factor in terms of flow and current. And again, through all these meetings, we had with state agencies, CZM was sort of front and center, and they're not shy if they're uncomfortable with a design to require sort of flow path analysis and further coastal dynamic modeling and requirements. And that was not something that they had asked for. But I'll hand it off to Paul to discuss. Just more about the design.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah, so-
before I lose you, Chris, just if I could also ask about your interaction with DCR. Have you been in touch with DCR?
Yeah, well, we had been meeting regularly with the Belle Isle Regional Collaborative that's organized by the Mystic River Watershed Association. So DCR staff had been present at those meetings, and I provided I know at least 2 updates, and I meant to provide an update at their last meeting, but I was out of town. But yeah, throughout the MEPA process, we've been using that as a forum just to review the project and its design. More broadly, we've been discussing this with the Orient Heights Neighborhood Association as well. But there was no specific notification to DCR. I know with the abutter notification, that list that was run by FOTH, that property must have just not popped on assessing. But again, I know that DCR staff has been aware of this project.
Okay, thank you. Paul, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So back for the first question on flow, when we looked at effects of salt marsh to the south and to the north, is pretty at a pretty high level. Disregarded, I would say what's going to control the flow in and out to the north is going to be controlled by the width at that bridge, which we're not impacting at all. So when we look at any changes to the hydrology, typically we're looking at changes to widths of openings or any really large scale relative to to one of the water bodies, any large scale changes even outside of the width. This is a relatively small change to the current topography. So your major influence there is going to be the same in and out through that inlet, and there shouldn't be any change to flow or anything like that makes its way up and in, which is what's going to be driving the salinity as the estuary effects and coming from fresh water start to interact with that salt water. There should not be any impact to flow during this. Again, to kind of reiterate what Chris mentioned, in these situations, if there's any indication that it's something that should be looked at, that they disagree with our assessment that it didn't need to be, CZM is very quick to point that out, and then we go ahead and look at it for them, and that wasn't required here.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, and the good thing here is we have a lot of stewards looking after the salt marsh. So if there's any issues, I'm sure that they're going to raise them to you. So hopefully this will be a very productive collaboration and with this new infrastructure. Elena, did you get any emails?
No emails, and see
Okay.
nothing in the chat, no hands raised.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So with that, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing and issue an order of conditions.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to amend that order of conditions with a special condition that 3 years of monitoring be done regarding the performance of the newly installed infrastructure.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Linay,
Aye.
Commissioner Estes Margiazzi,
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 4-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, next item on the agenda, notice of intent for DEP file number 006-2122 and Boston file number 2026-022 from Engineering Alliance, Inc. on behalf of Senator Lydia Edwards for the proposed outdoor deck and stair reconstruction for a 3-story residence at 186 London Street in East Boston. Resource areas land subject to coastal storm flowage. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, both Engineering Alliance. For a little easier matter, if you could pull up the slide, Eleanor. So this is an existing dwelling located 186 London Street. It's a typical triple decker that has access in the front and then a secondary means of egress out the back with a series of decks and stairs. This particular property, the dwelling itself is sort of split in half by the floodplain. The front portion of the site is about elevation 11.3, which is outside of the 100-year floodplain. The rear of the site, you can see that spot elevation is 7.7, 7.4, and then around that area is within the 100-year floodplain, which is elevation 10 in this case, so it's about a little over 2 feet into it. If we flip to the next page, or the next photo, this is what it looks like right now. The plan is to demolish these decks and rebuild them in kind with newer, better, stronger materials. These decks have reached the end of their useful life. There'll be 3 sonotube foundations that'll be placed where you can see the 3 deck supports come down, and everything else will be built to the same line grade with newer pressure-treated lumber and all the code requirement brackets and that sort of thing. So it's nothing new here. There's no new impact at all to the floodplain. We're just taking this old deck that's reached the end of its useful life and replacing it with a new one.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, my only comment is for Senator Edwards. It was good to see you at the North End hearing there, but it also rekindled my resentment that you moved on to a different district that does include East Boston and the North End, but doesn't include Charlestown, which was in your city council district. So I'm not going to get over that for a while. But that being said, nice to see you. And
Nice to see you.
I don't have any questions on this. Elena, do you have anything?
Nope, just my usual note that there are photos from our site visit in the drive folder, but nothing to add.
Okay, great. Just want to remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself. Send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Commissioner Linay, do you have anything?
I don't have any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Estes Smargiassi?
No questions.
Commissioner Herbst?
No, nothing from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Elena, I don't see any hands raised. Did you get any emails?
We did not, and nothing has come in through the chat either.
Okay, great, thank you. So with that, I would entertain a motion to issue order of conditions and close the hearing.
So moved.
We have a second.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Estes Smargiassi?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 4-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Good night. Next item on the agenda, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation from Epsilon Associates, Inc. on behalf of Chestnut Hill Realty to confirm the limit and regulatory status of wetland resource areas at 201 to 259 Independence Drive in West Roxbury. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Greg Hockmuth from Epsilon Associates. With me this evening is also Andy Martineau from Chestnut Hill Realty, representing the applicant.
Good evening.
We filed an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for one of the parcels that's part of Hancock Village. It's in the southwest portion of the property. It abuts Hancock Woods and Leatherby Woods. And if we can go to the slideshow, I can get the commission members a little better idea of the parcel we're talking about. It's shown here in yellow. Hancock Village is rather large. We're just seeking confirmation of the resource areas on this parcel that's here in yellow. We delineated a few bordering vegetated wetlands, a small section of inland bank, and then we're also seeking confirmation of the bordering land subject to flooding that's on this portion of the property as well. Next slide, please. So this is just an aerial from 2023 on the left that shows you what the existing conditions look like. There's some parking areas, there's some buildings. The resource areas we're talking about are in the bottom left of that yellow rectangle that you see, pretty much all along that westerly property boundary. They're pretty close to what Mass DEP shows on the image in the right. That's from Mass Mapper. It's the DEP wetland layer with hydrologic connections. Next slide, please. So this is one of the plan sheets. It's a 10-sheet plan set. We broke it up that way just so it could be at a scale that the commission could actually read the plans. And we put some color on the plan. On this plan, the only resource area we're seeking confirmation of is the BLSF boundary, which is a Zone A FEMA floodplain. Next slide, please. This is moving, I guess it would be in a southerly direction along that westerly property boundary, heading towards VFW Parkway and Independence Drive. And you can see there's some green on this plan. The green is the bordering vegetated wetland that pretty much parallels the paved parking lot that exists on the bottom portion of the plan. And the blue line, again, is the bordering land subject to flooding, which you can see encompasses a pretty good chunk of the parking lot in this portion of the property. Next slide, please. And this is moving in a northwesterly direction, matching the sheet that we just saw, which would be shown here in the bottom right. You can see the green wetland boundary keeps extending along the wooded portion of the property. And the blue is the floodplain. And you can see that little purple stretch there. That's what looks like a mechanically dug ditch that was dug many, many moons ago. And it looks like it was dug just to try to convey water from one portion of the wetland to the other. There's no BVW in that reach, which is why we just flagged inland bank. I think there's only 3 or 4 flags, but it's another resource area. And then the BVW boundary continues to the bottom left of this plan. Next slide, please. And then this is that same purple line you see there. This is just moving in a northwesterly direction. The BVW and BLSF boundary continues. And you can see there's an access road that goes through there. That goes to the DCR property that's out back towards Hancock Woods. That's why you see the line doing what it does there. And then the BVW boundary just continues up and to the left. We did review these boundaries with conservation staff last Thursday. We were able to have a site walk. It was a little damp, but we got it done. We didn't make any changes to the boundary. It's pretty obvious down here. It's toe slope wetland in portions of the property that were probably historically filled well before the Wetlands Protection Act and Clean Water Act. Next slide, please. And then the BLSF boundary just continues. We stopped flagging the BVW boundary just because it didn't really matter to us to have those resource area boundaries confirmed in that portion of the property. And I think that may have been the last slide showing, well, one more little piece of BLSF. And I think that's it.
Great.
Yep.
Nope. More to come.
One more. So I will say that this BVW, it does continue towards Leatherby Woods. It's a pretty extensive wetland system that does border on a water body. It's all BVW. There's no isolated wetlands out here. Next slide, please. That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Greg. Glad to see you're involved with this. Elena, you went on a site visit. What was your reaction?
We did, yes. So if you've taken a look at any of the photos in the drive, you'll see some flags that are a bright pink color, and those are the most recent ones. Those are the ones that were added with this delineation. There are some blue flags that you might see. Those seem to be from a previous delineation. I think that based on, and again, my disclaimer is that my training is not as a wetland scientist, unfortunately. But from what we could tell, we didn't have any concerns about the delineation itself. I think that one of the things that did come up on the site visit that's related is that we did see some like vegetation that had been dumped in one of the BVWs, probably by a resident. So we're going to be working with Hancock Village to develop some sort of like informational one-pager, just describing to residents the value of BVW and the fact that putting vegetation there is not, helping the wetland, which I think is a common misconception. One of the other things that we discussed is that there's an area that has some materials that are being stored, like some landscaping materials, I think, that are being stored right on the edge of one of the wetlands. So we're seeing if it would be possible to move those a little bit further from that area. But those were really our main points.
So the dumping were those 4 dead plants that were thrown?
Yes. Yep.
Yikes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll just assume the intent was good.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Okay. So like you, I'm not a trained wetland scientist, and I think the closest we have on the commission is Commissioner Herbst. So I think we'll lean on you, Commissioner Herbst. What are your thoughts on this filing?
I need to say I am not a trained wetland scientist, so
no, I said you were close.
No, I'm not even close.
Okay.
I make no claims.
Let me say, I said you were the closest. Okay.
I guess I wondered about, I'm interested, Elena, to hear that you being experts, I tend to think that a peer review can be helpful in these situations, particularly that it's also doing the flood zones. I had one, and I have to admit, it's been hard to parse out. I've spent a lot of time looking at the plans and probably could use a little more. But one question I had is, I know you talked about that there were other delineations done that you were, I think, sort of not, kind of ignoring is how I took it, that you did your own and kind of let those be. But there are recent delineations done by the same owner, and I'm wondering, and I think in the same area, so I'm interested to know whether those align or are different, or what you found.
Yeah, so I will say I found at least 3 sets of flags. They looked like they may have been within the last, 5 to 10 years. Our delineation generally agreed with those flags. In several areas, we were a little higher. I did keep all the by higher, I mean further from where they called the wetland out into the upland portion. So, I never say that we flagged conservative. We flagged what we felt was the wetland boundary, but we generally agreed. I don't think in any areas we were closer to the wetland than prior delineations.
Okay.
And I did keep all those flags on site just so we could see them during our site visit. There were some faded pink ones, some faded blue ones.
Okay. Well, some, I guess the owner here or the representative may know, some of these were done for the RDA that we had permitted, right? Within the last couple of years.
Yeah, so we did so we did the ANRAD to reestablish those flagging boundaries, and then you may recall an area of the site that was under review this evening. We were cited for a violation a year and a half ago or so, and one of the things that we were asked to do as a means to begin rectifying that was to reestablish some of the wetland flags that had been established prior. It was a prior effort. I can't speak to what it was for, but some of those flags were out there for quite a long time. So we had reestablished those wetland flags, had been before this board previously and met with Elena to review specifically that violation. And so I think some of those more recent appearing flags are those. And then when we were preparing to submit the ANRAD, we said, you know what, let's just reflag the whole thing and get it right, rather than trying to reestablish flags that, had been established years prior. So
Okay.
that's the nature of multiple flags out there.
Okay, thanks. I don't have other questions.
Okay. Okay. So it raises a question, and Greg, don't take any of these questions I have here personally. So when you are, and I live in like the 21E world. So LSPs, as you know, their certifications and licenses are on the line. So when is it a similar situation for you as a wetland scientist when I mean, obviously, I guess you're stamping plans. I'm just trying to figure out here, like, as far as the professional oversight that you have and the motivation you have to, protect. Obviously, you want to protect your livelihood and your reputation, but also, is there licensing implications if you're wrong on any of this, or how does that all work? And that's probably a question I should have asked years ago, but we
Yeah, so
probably only gotten 3 of these. So go
so
ahead.
it's a good question. First off, you're all wrong. You're all wetland scientists in Massachusetts because there is no certification requirement.
Okay.
There should be, but many of us pursue what's known as a professional wetland scientist certification. It's a nationally recognized certification. It shows that you've met certain qualifications, certain coursework at the college level, and there's a process, and it's a lot of folks before they become a PWS become what's known as a wetland professional in training. Massachusetts is heading that way to some type of certification. And from what I understand, anybody that's a PWS will not have to be certified in Mass, just through reciprocity. But a lot of us also became certified in New Hampshire as certified wetland scientists. That it is required to be a wetland scientist in New Hampshire with a certification. I've been practicing for 28 years. I'm a licensed soil evaluator also in Massachusetts since 2003. But they're really, other than just morals and ethics as being a PWS, there really is no license technically on the line. But I will say on a site like this, where it's a TOA slope, fill wetland, edge of pavement, it's tough to get a site like this wrong. The wetland boundaries are fairly obvious. It's a 3 parameter approach. We look at predominance of wetland vegetation, which means 50% or more wetland plants or hydrophytes. Other indicators of hydrology, silt-stained leaf, evidence of flow, raised roots on trees. And then, of course, hydric soils, which the state in 2002, before the new DEP delineation manual, hydric soils were just another indicator of hydrology. They weren't required in Massachusetts, but the new manual requires hydric soils as part of your delineation methodology. So it helps get these lines tighter, and it allows you to be able to defend them a little bit easier than just relying on vegetation, which is very important in a lot of the communities in Boston, because we are dealing with fill, altered sites. There's not a lot of natural vegetation left that you can really hang your hat on. So looping in soils, I think, really helps folks get it right. I don't
Interesting.
know
Okay.
if that answered your question, but
It did. Thank you for being so gracious to answer my pointed question there. And I know that you enjoy a good reputation. Epsilon enjoys a good reputation as well, but we get very few of these. So I can't remember the last one we got. I think it was up in Allendale. And no, maybe not. It was somewhere else, actually. But anyways, thank you for that. Commissioner Linay?
I don't have any questions, but thanks for that information. I think I learned something from it, so appreciate that.
Commissioner Estes Margiazzi?
No specific questions. The lines made sense to me from my experience, but
Okay.
it's not on the site.
Okay. Okay. So Commissioner Herbst, I'll go back to you. You actually froze at one point, and when you came out on the other end, you said something about a peer review. Are you feeling that a peer review is warranted here, or are you feeling comfortable?
It sounds like I'm hearing people go thinking that it isn't, and I can go along with that. I think it concerns me that none of us are really in a position to evaluate these, but it sounds like this is a case where people will feel comfortable, so I'll accept that.
Okay. Okay. Elena, anybody from the public?
No one from the public, and yeah, nothing in the inbox or chat either.
Okay. So this comes up so infrequently. I'm looking at the motion here. So I think the motion is to close the hearing and approve the notice of resource area delineation.
And I think we'd be issuing an ORAD. We'd be issuing an order of resource area delineation.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. Is that there's nothing else. Like when we do an RDA, there's obviously no erosion controls here, but it's just approving this ANRAD. Okay, and that's good for 3 years.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to close the hearing and issue the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. Good for 3 years.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Smargiassi?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so that carries 4-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, request for a determination of applicability from Arcadis USA Inc. on behalf of the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation for the replacement of in-kind replacement of degraded porous pavers within the parking area of the Neponset River Reservation at 138 to 140 Granite Avenue in Dorchester. Who's here on behalf of the proponent?
Good evening, Commission. My name is Stephen Perry with Arcadis. This evening, I'm joined by Thomas Fulton of the DCR and Doug Partridge of Arcadis as well. If we could go to the next slide. Thank you. The Neponset River Reservation parking lot that we're speaking of is located at the end of Myrtle Bank Ave at the intersection of Hilltop Street. The objective of this project is to replace the degraded porous pavers to maintain the existing stormwater infrastructure that's in place and to provide some reduction of localized flooding with those improvements. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Doug to talk through the permitting particulars.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commission. Next slide, please. As Steve just highlighted, we're really within the reservation along the Neponset River. The area that we want to focus on are the 2 red rectangles associated with the parking lot in which existing pervious pavers exist and which are planned to be replaced. Next slide. Yeah, really, and then I think it's pretty straightforward. It's 500 square feet of pavers that are really overgrown, really not functioning as they were intended. And really, as part of the park maintenance, is really the goal is to maintain and improve that stormwater management system. We did meet with the commission earlier, and they recommended that we submit this RDA to really confirm that we believe that this falls under an exemption of management of stormwater system. Next slide. Here's a picture. It shows, you can see the little triangles in the center. Really, it's overgrown, filled with sediment, really not working at its full capacity, and we're looking to replace these in kind. Next slide. A few slides. The next 2 slides are really just how we meet the exemption. First one is it was constructed with these pervious pavers in 2004 to 2005 timeframe under the Neponset Phase 2 Site Remediation and Park Development Program. It was constructed and permitted in accordance with all the appropriate regulations as they relate to the Wetland Protection Act. And there's a file number here as well as a date. It was permitted under the Metropolitan District Commission, just as an FYI. Really, in the end, the project really isn't proposing to result in any change that increases the total or peak volume of stormwater management. It's really a maintenance program. Next slide. And then really from the Wetlands Protection Act, this is the regulations that you all know. We addressed the date in which it was done as well as compliance with those regulations at the time. Next slide. This just gives you a picture of, again, they're not in red this time, but the black lines are the existing pervious pavers that will be replaced. The only wetland resource area is land subject to flooding. And so really in the end, the goal here is to really manage that stormwater in such a coastally active zone in order to properly manage that surface water. Next slide. In terms of just what we're planning to do, utilize typical construction equipment and contractor means and methods. They're going to be excavated and removed following slide. The following slide provides a construction detail. DCR is intending to schedule the construction to minimize disturbance to traffic and pedestrian access. That's always a consideration in terms of public lands. They're going to remain all the equipment will remain entirely within the existing paved surfaces. We're not expecting to disturb any vegetation or otherwise undisturbed areas. Storage and stockpiling will be limited to the existing paved parking area with appropriate soil and erosion controls. And next slide. Here's just an image of what we're talking about. The porous pavers being on the top, proximate to the existing concrete / asphalt surface, and with a drainage system below it, an 8-inch diameter perforated pipe, which will carry it to the appropriate catch basins. Next slide. Best management practices. We're really in a parking lot, right? With really with the edges that really are going to protect us in the grand scheme of things, granite edges to the parking lot. That being said, as necessary, we're going to protect all the catch basins with an insert detail provided, as well as necessary compost filter socks, so that we're protecting all the adjacent areas from any sediment movement during a storm event. And that could be it, I believe. Is there another? Nope. All right. Additional considerations. Apologies. Really, in the end, it was determined to be fully consistent with the climate action plan. I think that makes sense. And then we did provide notification to all the butters in English and Spanish.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. My only question is, how are the porous pavers going to be maintained? Are they maintained as part of the whole area?
Yeah, so the DCR, I don't, pardon me. I don't know if you recall, we presented for the Pope John Paul NOI like a couple of months ago. And so I believe the commission was provided a copy with the DCR's management and maintenance program. And so this would fall under that same program.
Okay. Okay. So let's, I don't think you have to submit it again, but we'll just note that it falls under that plan. Or Eleanor, what is the best way to do that? And it might have just been a link, I think.
Sorry, I missed the first part of the question.
Sure. So a few months ago for Pope John Paul Park, DCR, we asked for the submission of the maintenance plan for porous pavement.
Yes.
And so how did they provide it? Was it just a link? Is it an actual physical copy of something?
So it is, all of our prior to construction items come in as PDFs.
Okay.
So that can be sent to us. It can be emailed to us as a PDF.
Okay, so we have one, but you don't keep it in a central, like,
We divide our folders up by project, so
okay.
just so that we have a direct paper trail saying that this is the maintenance plan for these pavers, I think it makes sense to just have that resubmitted to us for this site.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know who's on from DCR, but if you don't mind submitting it with the project
Yeah, Chip,
file.
not a problem.
There
Steve
you
Perry
are.
has a copy of that, so
Okay.
he can get that over to Eleanor.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tom. Okay, remind members of the public to provide public comment. Please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute yourself, or send your questions to staff via email at cc@boston.gov. Commissioner Linay, do you have anything?
Just had a question. Given that the parking lot, the asphalt surfacing is, I guess, about 20 years old, have you been able to confirm either through observation or survey that the pitch still exists to direct water to these areas?
We did look at that, because the consideration of repaving the parking lot was also considered, and we, after a review and assessment, we decided didn't need it at this time. So it does still pitch to the proper areas.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Smargiassi?
Two questions. So are you replacing just the pavers, or are you replacing the underlying granular material and the piping as well?
Everything you saw in the detail, Commissioner Estes. I can't say your last name. Sorry about that.
That's fine. The second question is maybe a little more pointed. We rely on your good graces to say, yeah, we're maintaining all this stuff. Those pictures don't look like these have been maintained for a really long time.
That is absolutely correct. So
You're only maintaining the new ones?
We started a really robust stormwater management program back in 2009, 10. And by that time those porous pavers had been neglected for 7, 8, 9 years. So yeah, they were already not being managed properly. So we certainly will be take our stormwater serious over to DCR now. We have a really robust management program and operations program. So
at this point, it's more, I've identified that it's not working, and I'll replace it. I'm not going to, no one was out there with a shovel kind of scraping out vegetation and trying to somewhat improve it in the meantime.
it had been silted in. Yes, no, there was some type of we tried this, like Steve mentioned, there was localized flooding when it rains there. So we did try to, minimize and try to get the existing infrastructure working again.
Yeah.
To
Okay.
unavail. Yeah, we couldn't
Yeah.
get it going.
How far along are you in catching up with the deferred maintenance on these things, and then over the whole, obviously over the whole state, but
Yeah,
maybe
we
more in our
actually
region?
we have come a long, long way. When I first started 15 years ago, we went out, started cleaning catch basins around the parkways and all around the Metro Boston area, and catch basins were filled to the top of the CBs with sediment.
Yeah.
And we were getting flooding everywhere along all our parkways and parks and everywhere. And it's just not, that's not the case anymore. We've come a long way.
Yeah. Jamaica Way is better than it used to be. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess it's a question of survival, right? Got to manage the stormwater, given where your properties are located. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Herbst.
Nothing for me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Elena, did we get any, I don't see any raised hands. Did you get any emails, anything in the chat?
No, nothing in either.
Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability with the standard erosion control measures.
Oh, and Chair Parker, could we just add a condition to those requiring the maintenance plan to be submitted to us as well?
Oh, yes.
Thank
And adding a condition that the pavement maintenance plan be submitted.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Great. Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Smargiassi?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. We'll now begin our regular meeting. And I wish I had some of Elena's dinner.
Highly recommend. I can send everyone the
Yeah, my
recipe.
blood sugar here. It's wow. We're at past 9 o'clock. Okay. First item, request for a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 006-1748 and Boston file number 2020-031 from PAR Corporation on behalf of CCC Realty Trust for the rehabilitation of the steel sheet pile bulkhead located at 30 to 50 Terminal Street, Charlestown. Resource areas designated port area, coastal bank, coastal beach, riverfront area, waterfront area, land subject to coastal storm flowage, land under ocean, 100-foot buffer to coastal beach, and 100-foot buffer to coastal bank.
Yes,
Elena?
so we touched on this earlier in the hearing, but we conducted our site visit at the same time as we did for the NOI. So that was last week. And things appear to be in good condition. Of course, as we discussed, there's additional work that's going to be happening at this site. Based on what we saw and based on what they've submitted, we would recommend issuing a certificate of compliance with perpetual maintenance conditions numbers 27, 46, 47, and 59.
Okay, any questions from any commissioners? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 006-1748 and Boston file number 2020-031 with the perpetual maintenance conditions at numbers 27, 46, 47, and 59.
So moved.
Give a second.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Estes-Margiassi?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 4-0. Okay, Elena, administrative updates.
Yes, for the commission's review, there is a document in the drive folder related to DEP file number 006-1986. This is DCR's invasive plant management 2025 summary and 2026 plan for the Belle Isle Marsh Reservation. If any commissioners have questions after reviewing it, I'm happy to pass those along to the project team. But nothing really out of the ordinary or unexpected.
Okay. Is that a public document? So would the FBIM, would they have access to that?
That is a good question. I'm not sure. It's possible that a version of this is available somewhere. The way that it is formatted seems very specific to submission to the Conservation Commission. But I can check on that.
Yeah, it feels like something we could share with them.
Yeah, I'll look to see if I can
reason
find
why
it
not.
anywhere publicly, and if not, then I can reach out to DCR.
Okay, is that it for you?
That's it for admin updates.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda are meeting minutes. I reviewed them. Mason did a great job as usual. So I would entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes from April 8th, 2026 and April 22nd, 2026.
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Linay?
Aye.
Commissioner Estes-Margiassi?
Aye.
Commissioner Herbst?
Aye.
And I vote aye. That carries 4-0. Okay. We are at the time of night where we're going to adjourn, unless we have any objections. Thank you all very much. We got through a big agenda and looking forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks.
Commissioner Parker, I want to mention that when they converted Commercial Wharf to condominiums, I was a carpenter and worked in the basement for a semester. So for familiar, I had to go and open up a couple of things. They were very, very expensive back then. They ranged around $100,000.
I know.
In
I know.
1978.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Elena, when we talked today, I gave her the speckled history of how Chapter 91 law basically developed through these properties with the old Warving statutes. And I could detect that she was falling asleep on the other side of the phone.
My favorite part of this job is getting to learn all about how we got to where we are today. So no, I appreciate it.
It's a fascinating area, though. I mean, really, all of the common law for Chapter 91, the public trust doctrine, if you're interested in it, read a couple of those SJC decisions. And the guy who talked tonight, Tom Tillotson, I did remember him because I had to do title on the properties when I was a much younger lawyer. And that, it's like, I know that name from somewhere. And then it all hit me. I think his father's company, and the company he took over was like Blue Wave Trust or something like that. And they owned a lot of the land around there and did some of the development. So it's a fascinating area. But
Is that
anyway.
who wrote your paycheck, Steve? Did you get a paycheck from Blue Wave?
No, it wasn't from him. It was from a firm that was doing the contracting for them. But it is a fascinating area. A couple wharfs up, the new construction on planking on the low-rise ones. If you were in Boston during '78, that pier washed over, and yet they built them right at that pier level.
Rose Wharf or
no, for can't think of the ones with there's like two-story
Sargent. So there's Sargent.
No, the other way up towards the Navy Pier, up towards Coast Guard.
Oh geez. Okay, so Lincoln Place, Burroughs Wharf.
Those are all the high rises.
Battery's high. Anyways,
it doesn't matter. But if you,
I will find out.
Yeah, it's
on a mission.
It is. We were now worried about adding 5 or 6 feet in elevation. Those folks didn't add 6 inches above what was a flood.
Didn't care. Just get them built and sell them for $100,000.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a form of economic justice. The rich people make bad mistakes.
Good point.
All right.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.